Kim Critchley.
Please be seated. I just want to say welcome to everybody tonight, councillors, officers, public and press, and anyone else who's viewing this meeting online. And can I just remind councillors, please, to turn on their microphones on while speaking and turn them off again once they're finished. Otherwise, you'll not be heard in the broadcast. Can I ask if there's any apologies for absence this evening?
No official apologies.
No, that's great. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Smith.
Madam Mayor, item 9 on the agenda due to sort of business relations to some clients of mine.
Okay.
Just
Councillor.
say what type of interest.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Smith. What type of interest?
Personal, personal.
That's okay. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Personal interest, item 9, please.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Joel. McKivitt. Sorry, Joel.
Yes, item 9, personal interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McKivitt, do you want him to repeat it?
We just didn't quite catch that, sorry.
Can you speak a bit louder, Councillor?
Yes, item 9, personal interest.
Okay, and the nature being?
My mum and dad own a holiday let. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McKerrett. Minutes of the last meeting held on the 14th of May 2025. Can we agree they are true and correct record? Although I have to say before we agree, I've got a subject, a change, and it's on the minutes of the last meeting where it said in the Mayor's address that my charity was Home Care. I wish it to be known that my charity for this year is Home Start. Thank you. Can we have a show of hands to agree the minutes of the last meeting? Thanks very much. Just one announcement for me tonight, because I am going to waive my announcements because we've got a lot of officers who will be leaving, who've left the council. So the announcement is just to remind everybody, this week is Armed Forces Week, and there is Armed Forces Sunday service and parade taking place on Sunday the 29th of June. And it would be lovely to see as many councillors there as possible. Thank you. I would like to say congratulations to Kate Shane, Blackpool Tourism Limited Managing Director, Leisure Portfolio on her MBE for services to tourism and the local community. So thank you, Kate. I'm sorry I've rushed on there. I did just want to say as well, and I'm sure you'll all agree that we'd like to wish Councillor Lynn Williams, the leader of the Labour group, a speedy recovery. I'm sorry that she is ill at the moment. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the council to thank a number of council staff who have left the council services recently, including Anthony Lockley, former Assistant Chief Executive and Director of Strategy, Linda Dutton, former Head of HR, Jez Evans, Operations, former Operations Director of Envico, and before then the Head of Waste and Environmental Services for the Council, and Paul Preston, member, will be familiar with Paul, who worked in street cleansing services and also was part of Envico. And for me, Paul was also a really great advocate and was there from the beginning in Project Search. So I will take my prerogative as Mayor to invite any members who wish to say a few words on each person in charge. Councillor Brooks will speak on behalf of Jez Evans.
The legend that is Jed Evans. Yeah, Jez is at the back. For 43 years, he's led by example at the council to ensure Blackpool is a clean and welcoming place for residents and millions of holidaymakers who visit the resort each year. As Operations Director of Blackpool Council's wholly owned environmental service company, Jez was instrumental in restoring Blackpool's reputation as a family-friendly resort by ensuring that the town's streets, parks and the famous Golden Mile were sparkling at the start of every day. Jez is a familiar figure to hundreds of people across the town who share the same opinion. The work he did to improve the town helped put Blackpool back on the map and challenged any negative perceptions about the resort. There's no doubt that every single community and friends group in Blackpool know Jez, and they've relied on him for support and to help keep their neighbourhoods and parks well presented and clean. Jez has worked at Blackpool Council since 1981, and he worked his way up through the ranks from an administrator to his final role, which saw him manage hundreds of employees. These employees were inspired by his leadership and innovative approach. One of the highlights of his career was in the introduction of an award-winning new neighbourhood model, which was an innovative way of reacting to residents' concerns. At the time, this made his team the first in the country to issue fixed penalty notices from where the issues actually happened and not weeks or months later. The profile gained from that initiative led to him speaking at industry conferences across the country. He also developed Operation Snowdrop to deal with winter gritting. His processes were put to test after 7 days of heavy snowfall, and he was asked to give evidence in the Crown Court, and the judge publicly recognised the effectiveness of Jez's policies and leadership. Jez was never off duty. He could regularly be found patrolling the streets of Blackpool with a litter picker while walking his dog. Marley. Poor old Marley was also subject to walks in the middle of the night when Jez decided to check the icy weather conditions for himself, rather than rely on the forecast predictions. It wasn't unknown for Jez to decide midway through a bank holiday or a bank holiday weekend that he should go out with a spare vehicle and help the team. He didn't need to do that. He should have been enjoying time off with his family and friends. But such was his pride in keeping Blackpool clean and tidy that he took every opportunity to ensure that the town looked at its best. During the COVID pandemic, he had the corporate responsibility to coordinate the storage and distribution of PPE to care homes and staff. He found solutions to many issues raised during the pandemic, including creating a safe working environment, fluctuating staff attendance, and shortfalls in supply. It took an extraordinary effort to bring in an effective system to ensure everyone who needed PPE could access it quickly and safely. Jez was fiercely protective of Blackpool and deeply committed to his job. The respect he's got within the community has helped diffuse many potentially difficult situations. One example of this was when the council was looking to introduce a controversial public space protection order, bringing in new restrictions in relation to dogs. A group of angry residents organised a public meeting to discuss the plans and how to challenge the council. Jez proactively took the decision to attend outside of office hours to speak directly to the people involved. Despite the meeting being incredibly hostile and emotions running high, the following day the council began to receive praise for Jez and his approach. He mediated between the group and the council, resulting in a mutually acceptable compromise being reached to the satisfaction of both sides. While this may seem like a common sense approach to working with a community, it takes a very special set of skills to achieve the results that Jez did. Fly tipping. We've all reported fly tipping to Jez across the town. On one case, it led to a prosecution, and there were months of threats made to Jez and his family. He knew the culprits needed to be brought to justice and refused to be intimidated. In spite of fearing for the safety of his family, one incident actually saw offenders visit his home and damage his vehicle, but he remained stoic. Eventually, the culprits appeared in court and received custodial sentences. There's hundreds of people across Blackpool who would praise Jez for his work, but it's quite telling that he lists the development of his staff as one of his key achievements. He recently brought in urban driver apprenticeships to upskill the workforce and ensure their careers can progress. From his journey at work, he knew that you can start on the front line and through hard work end up as a director. He was proud to coach refuse collectors with low ambitions through qualifications into higher paid roles. Back in 2000, he started the bull planting scheme to mark the millennium. 25 years on, his legacy remains, and every spring the town is brightened up by 100,000 flowers planted by school children. The cleanliness of the town is a topic judged by every resident and visitor, and which every elected member is questioned on. He's extremely proud of the impact he made, and there is no doubt that Jez made Blackpool better for those who live, work and visit here. If you had to write a description of the perfect public servants, Jez would be it. In fact, Neil Jack says, Jez bleeds tangerine. I'm sure you'll all join with me and congratulate him on an amazing career, an amazing contribution to Blackpool, and wish him and his wife Tina a long and happy retirement and happy growing. Now he's got time to dig his allotment on Lawson Road. Thanks, Jez.
Councillor Burdess and then Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jez, returned to Public Protection and Enforcement as manager late in 2024, and since then I've found him to be sound. The type of leader who is visible, approachable, contactable, and who will go above and beyond to achieve the desired outcomes. I could rely on Jez to get things done, and all this with good humour. Though I hasten to add, I think he'd begun to dread my nights out on the town, as I'd become accustomed to him being on the end of the phone. So when I saw something questionable that needed to be acted upon immediately, I knew he'd make sure it was sorted, and quickly. Kind-hearted and generous, he would see to it that in the unlikely event he couldn't help, he had the experience and wealth of knowledge of the council to point me straight to the person who could. Some of the issues dealt with under this portfolio can make for rough sailing, but Jez always seemed to find the clearest way to steer through to calmer waters. And I wish him, and I'm sure all of the members will wish you, Jez, a satisfying and fulfilling retirement, and thank you for your long service. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Being one of the 3 survivors of the 2011 elections, we've been around quite a long time and worked with Jez. So I'm going to start with my first words is saying thank you. Right? Thank you for your support over the last 14 years. I have worked with you. Over the years, we've talked a lot of rubbish. Sorry, about rubbish. As a council for Talbot Wards, we have our challenges with fly tipping, bins and graffiti over the years. Working together with yourselves, we've aimed to keep on top of all these issues. And I know they've been challenging, but we worked hard over the years. What I can say about Jez, when there's a problem to overcome, we won't say we can able to resolve the issue, problem, but Jez will think outside the box to find a solution to fix the problem. And it goes beyond his call of duty to try and resolve those issues. And for that has made parts of town ward better, probably for the whole of the town better. You know, especially the issue we had recently is very supportive to find a solution with public health and as part of Envico with a derelict property in the town centre. Jez has always been committed to working with the team. I've seen him out early in the mornings, especially on busy events. And one being at the switch-on events, I can see him with the team doing a big clean-up at the end. He's always out there supporting the team. With the transition to bringing all domestic and commercial waste under Iveco, and we can all see the benefits to the residents and businesses across the town, you being the lead officer ensuring this goes smoothly. Thank you. We're developing a good team over the years. I can see it's going to go from strength to strength. End with this, saying a final thank you and enjoy your retirement.
Councillor Hugo.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. So I've got some words that Councillor Williams has sent to me. So, Jez, as a new councillor, Jez, I think I irritated you. Lynn, not me. I remember having to convince you when we wanted to start rubbish amnesties in Claremont. It was an inquisition. What about enforcement, councillor? I am sure you won't remember this, Jez, but during the refurb of the Magic Club, we had so much stuff to get rid of, it felt endless. I rang one more time to Gavin for help, and you answered. I had forgotten Gavin was on holiday. After another freebie, councillor, was your response. Of course you helped. But I think over the years, I'm pleased to say, I became less irritating to you, I hope. Since becoming leader, your support has been amazing. You are someone who I trusted and knew would give me good, honest advice and challenge. And then, of course, there is what I am sure others will refer to, the Jez problems. When you have no idea who to ask, and often not really knowing what you're actually asking, that we would say that's a Jez problem, and you never failed to help and come up with a solution. You understand the vision for the town, and your love and pride in the town and its people has always been so clear. Thank you for everything, for being just brilliant, and we will all miss you very much. Have a wonderful and well-deserved retirement. And then a few words from me. I was really pleased to be able to attend your retirement do, and I must say it was one of the most moving retirement events that I've ever been to. Just to see all those people there celebrating all your achievements and giving you a well-deserved pat on the back was a credit to you and all you've achieved. So, yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for your amazing contribution, and we will absolutely miss you. Thank you.
Councillor Benson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since my election in 2000, many years ago, Jez has been probably one of the most supportive council officers. He dreads the day he gives you your phone number. Saturday morning, Jez is on it. I can't thank him enough, just from the Leighton residents and when I was previously councillor in Greenlands. And I can't help but mention this, because Jez does bleed tangerine. So I see Jez quite often at the football, and he knows what I'm going to say. And everybody knows you don't leave that ground till 90 minutes. And who's sneaking off at 70? Well, I've just heard he's probably just going to check the ice on the roads. So now, Jez, now that you've retired, you can stay the full 90 minutes. Thank you,
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You may find this very difficult to believe, but occasionally, one or two of the naughtier members of the Bloomfield Board have left the occasional flight tip. So for the last 9 years, I've made that man's life absolute hell. So I'd just like to say thank you for that, Jez. I'd also like to say thank you. He's been incredible at any public meetings that I've had to attend, which has been great because everybody shouted at Jez and not me. I will really miss that. So from myself and the people of Bloomfield, Jez, thank you so much. It's been really appreciated.
Are there any other speakers? No? Okay, moving on. Next we've got Anthony Lockley, and I've got it written here, Councillor Brooks, that you will be speaking on Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anthony Lockley, OBE, leaves the council. Thus said the headline on the internet, in the council intranet. Anthony left after being a key member of the corporate leadership team for a decade, and he left with a sincere thanks of all for his work he's led in that time. Over the last 10 years, he's led a number of services, delivered key improvements and secured significant investment of both attention and resources from national and regional partners. His lead on housing and our Levelling Up partnership with government are the areas that will be remembered as having had significant and lasting impact and create enormous opportunities in the future. Levelling Up brought us well over £100 million of funding, and you can already see the impact of the funding, as well as the multiversity still to come. Our partnership with Homes England was driven by Anthony, and the £90 million of funding committed will start to drive a transformational change to some of the most deprived communities in Blackpool, with some of the worst private rented housing stock. Anthony is much to be proud of during his time in Blackpool, and he hands the baton on to a great team. But Anthony was about much more than that. Anthony did the hard yards outside of meetings. Anthony was instrumental in building relationships between councillors, mending relationships between councillors and officers, between officers and officers, and sorting disputes out, etc. I remember the first time I met Anthony as a new councillor, and I was summoned into his office as a newly elected member with responsibility for housing. And I knew why I was in the office, but when I first got summoned, I thought I'd done something wrong. But it quickly became apparent that he was actually quizzing me for what I thought and whether I'd meet the task. Since then, I've built up a really good relationship with Anthony. And from that day, I can say nothing but positive things about our relationship. I was able to ask for advice when I needed it. I would use Anthony as a sounding board. I'd use Anthony and help to develop strategy and discuss strategy at all sorts of strange places. On one occasion on the promenade, we had an hour and a half arguing about strategy. But that was Anthony. Wherever we needed to be to discuss, he was available. Anthony wanted to get stuff done for Blackpool, and he understood my desire perfectly for social housing and providing opportunities for our residents. He remained professional until his departure, to his eternal credit. Blackpool's loss is going to be somebody else's gain, and I'd just like to wish Anthony well in whatever he does on behalf of all at the council, and on a personal note, just to say thanks for all your help, guidance and support, and you still owe me a pint.
Any other speakers? Councillor Hugo.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. So similarly, I have another message from our leader, Councillor Lynn Williams. So Anthony, well, he hasn't done badly over the last 10 years. Anthony has led various services. His leadership on housing and our partnership with government are the areas that will be remembered as having had significant, lasting impact. Our partnership with Homes England was driven by Anthony, and the 90 million of funding will start to drive a transformational change to some of the most deprived communities in Blackpool with some of the worst private rented housing stock. He was also a member of the core team that secured a devolution deal for Lancashire. Anthony has so much to be proud of and fully deserved the OBE, Sir Anthony of Lockley. His passion for Blackpool and its people has driven him on, and we will miss that passion and dedication. Despite all that he has achieved, I am sure he would say the most significant achievement was that he, Carl Carrington, and I were voted the best session at Planning Conference in 2015. He even made planning interesting. I know that Blackpool and everyone will always be in his thoughts, and we in turn wish him every success and happiness for whatever comes next. And I would also just like to say personally from me, just a couple of words, but Anthony was a huge support to me when I took on the Cabinet Member responsibility for climate change. As a new Cabinet Member, he was a great support. He's a real champion of the climate change agenda, and he was always lending me books and suggesting documentaries to watch. I'd like to say I've read them all, but I've got a little pile, so we need Anthony to come back and collect the books that he's lent me. So yeah, thank you, and best wishes to Anthony.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've had a few conversations with Anthony over the years, and his passion for social housing goes through his blood. And he's always talked about, I keep saying to him, I'm going to look forward to reading your book in the future. So I suppose if we've got a bit of time now, we can start on that book. But good luck for the future and whatever it brings to yourself. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other speakers? No? Moving on. Councillor Brooks again will be speaking for Linda Dutton.
It's all these people that have decided to leave after years and years of service at the same time that's the problem. Yeah, Linda's served Blackpool Council as the head of human resources until she recently retired after 19 years at the council. Throughout her career, her passion and commitment for Blackpool has shone through. She's played a crucial role in supporting our services through some incredibly difficult times, through a good people management practice and organisational efficiency across the council and its wholly owned companies, as well as within a wide range of traded services. Over the past 20 years, she's supported the recruitment, retention, health and well-being, training and development of managers and staff at all levels, including through the COVID pandemic with all its challenging staffing implications. One of the most trusted advisors to senior officers, her teams, employee relations, organisational workforce development, recruitment, HR admin and occupational health have all benefited from her experience and solution-focused approach over many years. Her expertise, calm demeanour and professionalism will be sorely missed by everyone who's had the pleasure of working with her. And, you know, as somebody that's spent many, many years in my career as arguing with HR when representing people, Linda was absolutely straight as a die. You knew where you were, whether you were arguing with you or agreeing with her. And very often, these people go under the radar. They keep the job ticking. So good luck in your retirement, Linda.
Are there any other speakers? Jane? Councillor Hugo, sorry.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. So again, I'm channeling the leader here. So Linda's job as head of HR, I think, is a really difficult, tricky job, and one which she did incredibly well. She had to be tough, but she managed that with fairness and understanding. Straight talking and direct, yet never talked down to anyone, and managed to explain what could sometimes be quite a complex range of issues and options clearly. Linda probably served the longest retirement notice ever. She wanted to ensure a smooth transition and handover, which was just further evidence of her unwavering commitment and professionalism and the patience of her husband. I thank her for her support and her commitment to the council and Blackpool, and I wish her a very happy retirement. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? No. Last but not least, Councillor Hugo will speak on behalf of Paul Preston. Can I just say, councillors, before we move on, we've got a massive agenda this evening, so if we could, I know you can't keep them brief because, you know, these are people, officers we've worked with and we really care about, but I'm just making you aware of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. So, Paul Preston, these are my words now, not the leaders. A dedicated officer is retiring after 41 years. Paul has had various roles at the council and he has managed the Household Waste Recycling Centre for the past 5 years, achieving some incredible milestones. Creating employment opportunities through partnerships and organisations like the Princess, now King's Trust, and Project Search. Overseeing the reuse shop, which has increased its sales year on year, reaching an impressive 77% recycling rate. Leading the team to win Team of the Year at the Keep Britain Tidy Awards. I would personally like to thank Paul for his contribution towards our climate change targets and also the annual donation from the shop to the Mayor's charity. Finally, thank you so much, Paul, for leaving the Household Waste and Recycling Centre, Ship Shape and Bristol Avenue Fashion.
Oh, very good.
So that was like the official one, and now I've got a message from Lynn. Paul, I would meet and chat with Paul at the various events for Project Search. For those who don't know, Project Search is a scheme which supports and helps our young people with learning difficulties into work. The young people undertake 3 different work experience placements over the year, and since the start, Paul, in his roles, has not just supported but championed the project. He was brilliant with the young people, supportive and calm. Paul has explained why he felt so personally committed, because at 16 he had been given a chance, an opportunity when he got a job at the council, and he felt very strongly that he wanted to do the same for other young people. By doing so, he hasn't just given work experience, but has led to numbers of young people actually getting employment. A thoroughly decent and nice person, and great at his day job as well. He will be missed. He has a list of things to do in retirement, including travel and learning a language. I wish him a very busy and happy retirement.
Thank you for Councillor Hugo. Any other speakers? No? Okay. So moving on, agenda item 4, public representation. Mr. Ian White will address the council. Mr. White, you'll have 5 minutes to speak, and you'll receive a warning light at 4 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, councillors and council officers, thank you for allowing me to speak again tonight regarding the Blackpool holiday areas. Only by acknowledging the town has problems can we look to start the rebuilding process to take Blackpool forward. The emphasis must be on rebuilding the overnight trade that does far more to support the town's economy. Despite many months of promises for the review of the holiday accommodation areas, we need to consider far more. Rather than further fragmenting and weakening the offer, which does little to enhance the visitor experience, we must now support communities and deliver a thriving economy. Abandoned properties, cannabis farms, and ASB are far from welcoming experiences and don't encourage holidaymakers to want to stay around. The need is for far more structured holiday areas where what is allowed is well understood and what is not is robustly taken to task. It is understood that this will be a long journey that can only be supported by a proper management plan. The current lack of clarity and management leaves negative planning appeals allowed out of town agencies to fill town properties with high maintenance individuals with the significant cost that comes with that. Companies working with housing options are allegedly shipping in far more individuals to support the longevity of their business model. ASB, county lines and other activities have the freedom to prosper. Though it is fully appreciated that the town needs the branded hotels to support the ambition for more and larger conference trade, how are these business visitors going to feel if a wrong turn takes them into the shadowlands of Blackpool? It's unloved and unforgiving streets that many of my colleagues have to run their business. The traditional holiday accommodation sector in this town is in crisis. Please hope that the time to act has not passed. Thank you all very much, and thank you to Blackpool South MP, who is believed to be tuned in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Councillor Neil Brooks, Deputy Leader of the Council, will respond on behalf of Councillor Lynn Williams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. White. There are a number of points made across your speech, for which I thank you. You just said that only by acknowledging the town has its problems can we start to look and start the rebuilding process to take Blackpool forward. I want to thank you for, in this statement, endorsing the strategy that I and my fellow executive members and councillors are delivering here in Blackpool and have delivered over the past 17 years. What you've described there is well articulated in our council plan and can be seen in the work we are doing through a range of local and national partnerships. Just over the last 12 months, we've secured £90 million worth of Homes England investment to deliver real and lasting transformative change in one of the most challenged of our inner areas, an area that sits cheek by jowl to some of the most iconic leisure assets. We've transformed the area that greets visitors when they step off the train and delivered growth in year around footfall and spend around the town centre by bringing to fruition the DWP building that's home to 3,000 civil servants, incredibly well served by public transport access and securing the future of the civil service in Blackpool's economy. That's led to further investment, this time from the MOD, who are developing the site to the east of the business district to develop a central office location for their staff. Phase 2 of the multiversity development is about to commence. We've taken steps over just these last few months to secure a positive future for the tower and associated properties that was part of the Merlin portfolio. And I am, as I'm sure you are, incredibly happy to see that this will be managed locally with significant expert leadership from Kate Shane MBE by Blackpool Tourism Company. The delivery of the conference centre, the transformation of St John's Square, securing the future of a town centre, state-of-the-art cinema, removing unsightly and imposing structures like the courts from the centre of our town, protecting and developing our heritage and keeping people coming to our vibrant town for all the right reasons. This is our strategy to deliver a strong offer to improve the visitor experience, and it's working. It's simply untrue to say that housing options work with companies to support nefarious business models by shipping in high-maintenance individuals. You know it. We have statutory duties to support our residents, legal obligations, and we meet them. Making such unfounded statements with a weak qualification of allegedly does nothing to strengthen the validity of your case. It's just grandstanding and undermines some actually good and valid points that you've made, even if they are points that support work that's already underway. I'm afraid I've got a different view of Blackpool's community, not shadowlands of unloved and unforgiving streets. I see a community full of strength, a sense of belonging and pride, and a desire to build on those assets to address some long-standing challenges that impact on our communities and businesses. Thank you, Mr. White. Hopefully you can contribute fully to the consultation exercise that's coming about the holiday accommodation areas.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Moving on to agenda item 5, Executive and Combined Fire Authority reports, Councillor James Hugo.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. So I'm happy to present the report. Just before I do, I'd like to highlight the excellent example of partnership working during the dreadful fire at Kent Road on Saturday. We are extremely proud of the way the incident was managed, and I would like to thank not only the Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service, but also our council colleagues for all their support in assisting residents and managing road closures along with the police. Sincere thanks also go to Club 3000 Bingo, Blackpool Salvation Army and Beacon Church for supporting evacuated residents. But happy to move the report. Thank you.
Any questions or comments on the CFA report? Well, sorry, my mic wasn't on. I did just apologise for jumping ahead. I was looking at the... I should have been... Yes. Well, we just have.
That was the fire authority report. Is that the fire authority report as well? As asked by the Mayor.
Yeah, we haven't done the lead. I'm sorry, it was my apologies. It was my fault. I just saw the fire's leaders report when it should have been the leaders of the council report. So we're going to jump.
Okay, then I'll ask a question about the fire authority report, if I may.
Yeah, that's.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of the fire authority, obviously I was pleased, Councillor Hugo, that you referenced the fire that we've had. A bit later in Councillor Smith's portfolio brief, I will highlight the number of empty buildings that we have in Blackpool. I noticed there was a report, the report references a fire in January in Blackpool. How concerned are the fire authority about the number of empty buildings in Blackpool and their increase? And how much time is that taking in terms of the fire authority lobbying this council to do something about it?
Thank you, Councillor Galley. I think it would be wise to get, rather than me speak on their behalf, the Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service, we can get a response from them. But in my experience at meetings, it's never been raised as a concern. There are reports about fires from all over the county, and each fire in itself is a concern, and the Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service do their absolute utmost to prevent fires from starting. But as I say, I will let them respond to your question from their point of view, because I can't speak on their behalf.
Yeah. As a follow-up, and the Constitution allows me, Mr Mayor, that's disgraceful. That building will be full of asbestos that's just caught fire. A lot of the buildings in Blackpool will be built around the 1930s and 20s. When they burn, they emit all sorts of toxins into the local community. It's not just a case of, oh, a building is being is on fire. Isn't that awful? We've lost a building. This is actually systematic. This has happened because nobody's asking the question, why have we got so many empty properties that are either being used to grow cannabis or just abandoned because property speculators are buying and sitting on them? Central Drive's riddled with them. So what are we doing about it? Because when these things burn, they emit toxins that will make our public ill. That's why it needs to be asked, Mr Mayor. The fact you don't know and you sit on that board is shocking.
Councillor Hugo.
I'm sorry that you find that shocking, Councillor Galley, but that's not what I said. What I said was I'd like the fire authority the Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service to reply themselves. And may I point out that one of your own members sits on the fire authority as well, alongside me and Councillor Jackson. So not only are you holding me to account, but you're holding your own party to account as well. If you wouldn't interrupt, thank you. So now I've lost my thread. Thank you for distracting me there. Yes, so we shall ask the Fire and Rescue Authority to respond to you directly, but please be reassured it's not taken for granted. I don't think it's a simple thing at all. My father was a firefighter for over 30 years, as many people have got relatives and so on. Many people are affected by fire, as I well know. We don't take it lightly, and we do something about it. So please look forward to your response.
Any other questions on the Fire Authority report? No, thank you. The leader. So, we're going back to the report now. The leader of the council and cabinet member for tourism, art and culture, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies already but due to Lynn, Councillor Williams' absence due to COVID. I will attempt to answer any questions that are raised. Any that we can't raise, we'll get a written answer.
Any questions? Any questions or comments on what? So the themes are provisional financial outturn 24-25.
Thank you,
Councillor
Madam Mayor. Just on behalf of the Conservative Group, obviously we wish the Council Leader a speedy return to health. In terms of the provisional financial outturn, we're now at the end of month 3, and it's disappointing to find that the data is limited to the end of April 25. How are children's services, adult services and growth and prosperity performing against the targets that they were set 3 months ago, Madam Mayor?
Any other questions on that first, on the first theme? Second one, investment. Oh, Councillor Brooks, right.
Well, the simple answer is I haven't got the up-to-date figures, but it's a well-known fact that these are always historical. The facts that are presented there, the provisional outturn at the year end that have now been audited. In terms of how children's services, adult services and growth and prosperity, the teams of all those areas are well aware of the pressures on our budget overall, and they will be monitoring those. I can endeavour to get a written response to you in terms of the up-to-date position for today.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Theme 2, investment marking at UK Relief and MIPIM. Any questions? No? Moving on. Theme 3, Blackpool Tourism Limited. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. If I could just talk about theme 3, page 16. I just pick on a couple of negotiated a new partnership which involves Madame Two Swords and the Dungeon being operated on a franchise basis. Can I just ask the Deputy Leader, at what cost is the franchise to the authority? And secondly, how long is the lease? Also, while we're talking about Merlin, secondly, can the Deputy Leader give assurances that now that the marketing strategy to promote Blackpool is on par with that of Merlin, will it be on par with Merlin? My concern is now that we have parted ways from the second largest leisure management company in the world, I believe it's next to Disney, will we fall short of Merlin? We're able to deliver on a national and, dare I say, somewhat global level. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Brooks.
Are there any other questions?
Any other questions on Councillor Erskine?
Hi. So during your reply to Mr White earlier, you talked about the protecting the heritage assets, and clearly this move to take a franchise of Blackpool Tower and all the attractions is part of doing that. But what we've not heard for several months is what we're doing about the heritage trams. Now, I know they're coming back for a week during the illuminations, during Lightpool, but we haven't heard anything else about whether they'll be returning fully, which was promised at the time. We were told they were just closing down briefly due to health and safety concerns. But as yet, we've not heard anything about when they will return and what were the actual reasons that they were stopped in the first place. The trams are just as much an important part of our heritage, I'd say equally so as Blackpool Tower. And so I'm concerned that we've seemed to have closed the door on the heritage trams. Now we've taken the tower back over. Are we at some point going to close the door on that too? Because visitors come here and expect to see the heritage trams just as much as they do the tower, and not just sat in, you know, to go and look at, but actually to have a go and travel on them. And prior to them shutting down, they were extremely busy. I used to go on it several times a year with the children, even though I get the normal trams all the time. So I'd like really some answers on what's happening with the heritage trams, please. Thanks.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. In general comments and questions, the Deputy Leader has already referenced the DWP building. He's already referenced the multiversity and the central location. Can I just ask, as a Blackpool resident, and we've spoken and we've heard from Jez Evans, which is a local lad, the last thing that was, what about Blackpool South? What about Bond Street? The last thing that I've known that this authority ever built was 39 years ago, and that's the Blackpool Sandcastle, which opened in June '96. We've got hoteliers here from Blackpool South. Where is the details for Blackpool South? The local economy of tourism is worth £1.98 billion per year, which employs 23,000 workers. But yet this document, or should I say this report, is so lacking in our biggest economy driver. It's a shambles.
Any other questions? No, we're on theme 3, tourism. Any other questions on theme 3? No, Councillor Brooks.
First of all, in terms of the franchising arrangement with Merlin, I'm reliably informed it's at zero cost to the authority. And Councillor Ellison talked about heritage assets, and the tower and the things that are going to be under our control are our heritage. They're iconic brands, not only nationally, but the world over. And unlike yourselves, I find the Blackpool Tourism Limited is a tremendous asset and a tremendously exciting time for us going forward. You know, the Tower Eye, the Circus, the Ballroom and the Dungeon, Madame Tussauds, Sandcastle and Showtown, all under one roof, if you like, for Blackpool tourism, and it's under our control. We've had a very successful partnership with Merlin. Perhaps it's rose-tinted glasses talking to the future with Merlin, given that Merlin are looking to get rid of assets across the country. We've had a successful and a long partnership with them, but now we've brought all these things together under our tourism banner, and I'm really excited for what it'll mean for Blackpool. It'll mean that we can advertise Blackpool as a destination, not individual brands competing against each other, but we want people to come to Blackpool. And a spin-off to that is to get people to stay in the holiday destination, not just come and visit the Pleasure Beach, not just come and visit the Tower, but come to Blackpool for all these assets. And we've got that in place. There are exciting plans that will be coming forward. I was fortunate enough to see and hear those at the staff conference yesterday. There's exciting plans for developing an app so that locals can see what's on and what's coming, as well as be the first to know about any upcoming offers or discounts. Social value is the key. And again, at the staff conference yesterday, it was mentioned that tourism, which provides a gateway to employment for the vast majority of our youngsters. I don't know how many people in here, their first job was in tourism. We get the option to get those people into employment and get the skills that'll sort them out for work. I'll just finish up with Bond Street. Yes, Bond Street hasn't been forgotten. Bond Street is currently the subject to 2 master plans being developed for how we can develop and sort stuff in the South Shore area. Similar to we've had master plans for Revo, we had master plans for Claremont. Those are being brought forward for Bond Street, and hopefully that will be informing all of us going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Is there any general or questions or comments on the matters within the Cabinet's report? Yes, General.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to bring members' attention, if I may, Madam Mayor, to the deeply disappointing and shameful attempt by the council leader in the recent press to smear my integrity and discredit the work that I've done to try and bring a child inquiry to Blackpool and make sure Blackpool is included in that inquiry. I want to make it absolutely clear, Madam Mayor, I know the leader will be watching, that I've worked on this report not for personal or political gain. I've worked with both our Labour MPs and will continue to do so and look forward to making this happen by the work that we're doing in a non-political way. And I take any accusation that accuses me of being political when that is not the case very, very seriously. I am fuming, Madam Mayor, about what has been said. For months, I've worked with recognised experts in child safeguarding. I've listened to the voices of the victims. I did not do this for self-promotion. I did it because this council, under Councillor Williams, her leadership, voted against an inquiry request in a motion in January. And I was appalled then, and I'm even more appalled since. I took about, Madam Mayor, doing a piece of work that was purely audit-focused, to address the data, to address the numbers, because I felt uncomfortable at the time in what I picked up in January. And I didn't feel the council were going to do enough in what their motion recommended. And now, in an attempt to deflect failure, Madam Mayor, at a time the Casey report has come out and the government has now changed, rightly so, and credit to Keir Starmer for listening to the Casey report, that in an attempt to deflect the failure in this council, by saying we don't have a problem, by saying we don't need to have an inquiry in Blackpool, the leadership of this town attempts to discredit me in a newspaper article accusing me of using children for political purposes. Not only is it untrue, Madam Mayor, it is disgraceful, and it's an insult to the victims and all who have helped me put that report together. Regarding the data, which the leader highlighted, there was an error, Madam Mayor, but it was a police one. They even apologised in writing 3 days after the report was published. 2 days, actually no, 24 hours after the report was published. Something that the Casey report highlights itself, Madam Mayor, that the police are not very good at managing data. So the question I am subsequently going to be finding out is, where did that 1,555 number come from? It was a specific question, and I got a specific answer. Turned out to be incorrect. I amended the report. I then sent the correct report with the updated data to Jess Phillips. And the one thing about me, Madam Mayor, is I am transparent, I am honest, and I will always do my best for this town. But I will not be accused of political posturing on something as serious as this when I deliberately avoided doing so. So I call on the leader, Madam Mayor, to stop trying to discredit those who are asking for an inquiry. And if I may, Madam Mayor, I still have a question, and I will finish this question. Will the leader do the right thing, is the question, and call for an inquiry? That is the question. Will the leader call for an inquiry? You gave them half an hour to say, pat everyone on the back. Let me ask this question. Will the leader do the right thing, and will they call for an inquiry?
Definitely out of order, Councillor Galley. Your time was up a long time ago. And as you say that our councillors were making statements about some of the fantastic officers that not only do work for us, but do work for you as well. And you didn't have the decency to say even a thank you between you. So if you don't mind...
It wasn't even on the agenda, Madam Mayor.
That was the wrong time to make that statement. Sorry. Councillor Brooks, do you wish to respond?
I do indeed, and it's a shame that Councillor Williams... Sorry?
Are there questions that you would like to ask this on the same line of Councillor Galley's? Right, so if we let Councillor Brooks answer Councillor Galley. That's what I just said. Is it about the same thing? So do you want to take two questions and then answer Councillor Brooks, or would you like to do them one at once?
I think it's appropriate that the comments that have been made by Councillor Galley are answered immediately. So it's unfortunate that Councillor Williams isn't here to defend herself. I'm sure this will all come up again in the Cabinet Members' report and the appropriate time of the agenda, where we should be discussing it, because that's where the professional analysis of these things takes place. And I'm sure Councillor Hobson will have something to say. But I will say something before we get to that stage, and it's not about political grandstanding. When I was elected in 2019, amidst all the euphoria, the first thing you do as a newly elected councillor, you expect and you sign a document that says you're going to work on behalf of all our residents. And as part of that, we're all corporate parents. And we've all signed up to that. Everybody in this council chamber has signed up to be a corporate parent and look after children and vulnerable adults and vulnerable people in this town. So we should remember that in anything we discuss. We need to be professional and forensic in any analysis of evidence and figures, and we need to seek verification and we need to seek ratification where possible. But if we go out into the public domain and we make a mistake, as Councillor Gallagher just explained to us he did, not his own mistake perhaps, a mistake on the information he got from the police, then it's fine going and sending a letter to Jess Phillips, but across the town, that information has gone across the town. It needs to be corrected across the town. There's an old saying that says a lie goes halfway around the world before the truth gets its trainers on. So we need to put it out there that says there was a mistake by the police, by the information given. That's not to say that that information couldn't have been ratified and verified by proper analysis with the professionals within the council. There'll be people contributing later, I'm sure, as part of Councillor Hobson's response, that will say scrutiny is the place for this sort of thing, where we can do an in-depth analysis. We're about an in-depth analysis. And yes, I will give the commitment that we will ask for the inquiry. I'll steal Councillor Hobson's thunder, if you like, because we are going to write to the Home Secretary and ask that they come to Blackpool, ask that we're included in the inquiry, and more important, ask that they come and see our Awaken project, which is an exemplar of good practice that nationally could be followed.
As a follow-up, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wilson.
Madam Mayor.
No, I'm sorry.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Point of order, Madam
sorry.
Mayor.
Councillor Wilson put his hand up.
So, a point of order. So, we've got 2 points of order. 11.6, one, a question comment has been answered. There may be follow-up questions or comments. Also, 15.13, personal explanation. A member may make a personal explanation at any time. A personal explanation may only relate to some material part of the earlier speech by the member. So that's grounds enough for me to reply.
Is it on the same subject?
Is it on the
yes.
same subject?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
There's no... Councillor, there's no need to be...
very important, Madam Mayor. So, I'm glad you've said what you've said. I'm glad you said what you said, Councillor Brooks. It is noticed, though, that rather than say thank you, because without that data, you wouldn't be asking for an inquiry now in Blackpool. And I know that because it's not even on your agenda tonight. You never would have spoken about it. So rather than say thank you, well done for somebody getting off the backside and doing the work that we should have done, you're here there denouncing me in public like some North Korean totalitarian state, denouncing me in public, questioning the tiniest bit of data, which wasn't the substantial part. The substantial part of the data was the 1,746 children that reported being sexually assaulted in Blackpool in the last 3 years to the police. That data the police didn't correct, because it is correct. And that's where we are. And I'm so cross that they've been absolutely slated in the press for doing the right thing for Blackpool. It would have been nice to have heard a thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Brooks, would you like to come back?
Well, there'll be no thank you, Madam Mayor, on the basis that I've been personally insulted as well. I mean, I'm nothing like Kim Jong-un and some Korean dictator. But what I am is a passionate advocate for truth and for justice and for forensic analysis of the data that's available. And it will come to light. It will come to light in scrutiny what nonsense was put into the public domain. It needs protecting, it needs correcting, it will be corrected. We've got the press in tonight. Hopefully they will report that the whole basis of your report, Councillor Galley, is questionable. The fact that you've been a councillor for 14 years and you've never raised this issue before is actually to your detriment, not to mine. And equally, the fact that the scrutiny committee, had any Conservative member deemed it fit to go and attend those scrutiny meetings, they would understand that our Children's and Young People's Scrutiny Committee are going to do a deep dive on this subject in September. There's no representation from the Conservatives. There's no representative from the chair of the Scrutiny Board. Now, that's the criticism. That's the criticism, Councillor Galley. You've got to roll. When I finish, you can start.
No,
what you've got to say is when you're the chair...
Councillor Galley, you have to respect Councillor Brooks while he's speaking now. No, you've been shouting since you stood up, so please give respect to fellow councillors when they're trying to answer what you've been shouting about. And there are other members of your group who would like to have a say, so I would expect every councillor in here to be... No matter how emotive this subject is, I would expect each councillor to respect each councillor, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will limit my comments to say that had the Conservative Party and Councillor Galley attended the scrutiny meetings to discuss this issue, they will realise there will be an in-depth analysis of the evidence that's been presented by Councillor Galley, quite falsely in the public domain, and the actual evidence will be the subject of media coverage because the press are always present at those scrutiny meetings and they'll get the full information. There will be no whitewash. I'm quite a responsible councillor and I'm proud of my role as a corporate parent.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Wilshaw.
As the leader of the councils in charge of tourism, why are the illuminated trams been not starting at the start of the illuminations? In fact, they're starting in mid-October. This is seriously damaging our tourism offer. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Sloman, is yours a different question? Right, can we, do you want to answer Councillor Wilshaw's question first and then take Councillor Sloman's?
The answer is, Councillor Wilshaw, I'm not sure of the actual facts and the up-to-date position because it's ever moving. The last I heard was that certainly from half-term onwards, we're talking about the illuminated trams and the heritage trams. And apologies to Councillor Allison for not picking it up earlier on in the question that was raised. That there is a commitment to bring them back, but I'm not aware of the actual up-to-date position, but I will endeavour to get a written response to you.
Councillor Sloman.
Thanks. It's just a clarification from something you said, Councillor Brooks, which as I hope will take some of the steam out of what we've heard tonight. Did you actually say, within the context of your response, that you are actually, or the Labour Council are actually going to write to government now and ask to be involved in a national inquiry for Blackpool? And if so, if only you had taken the time to back our motion when it was made originally, we wouldn't be feeling all this pain and listening to all the rhetoric and the nastiness that's taken place tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On this outrageous rape gang scandal, obviously we had the vote in here a few months ago, and I was disappointed that Labour voted against the motion to call for that full inquiry. Now, clearly it was quite an emotive evening that night. The facts of this whole matter haven't changed. The facts haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is the opinion of our Prime Minister as to whether we should have an inquiry or not. Now they're fully back in the inquiry. I just wonder if the Labour group would like to apologise for the error in which they made. But also, I can see where Labour are coming from when it came to that evening, when it appears, don't know how true it is, that families of victims were invited along, which look for no other reason than absolute politicisation of this whole issue. And I want to remind you that up until a year ago, the Tories were in power. Any point during that, if you raised a motion to go for a public inquiry, I'm sure these people would have backed it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Brooks.
Well, I mean, I thought this was all going to be Councillor Hobson's flak. Can I just say that, yes, we can take the heat out of this, and I would point out, for the record, the Conservatives voted against the motion. The motion in the minutes was voted for by this side of the House. It wasn't voted for by the Council. They voted against the motion. That's what the records show. Now, let's talk about dealing, as I keep saying, with forensic evidence and intelligence. And it really is a shame, Councillor O'Neill, that you talk about rape gangs and there's all sorts of rhetoric about grooming gangs. There is no intelligence to suggest that that is our problem in Blackpool. The problem we've got with CSE in Blackpool is generally opportunistic offending and very often known within the family. That is evidentially based, and scrutiny will find that out in the review in September. So there's no need to apologise for changing our mind. We haven't changed our mind. What's happened is the author of the original report, quite rightly, when she's gone back over the evidence at a national level, which we can't control, has said there is evidence to see. Yes, Keir Starmer, congratulations. Thank you, Councillor Guy, for congratulating Keir Starmer for his U-turn. Has U-turned and said, yes, we'll take part, we'll have a national inquiry. What I said to this council tonight is that we, Councillor Hobson, will be making the offer in his contribution tonight that we will be writing to the Home Secretary for Blackpool to be included in that inquiry, because we've got nothing to hide. Far from it, we've got everything to gain. We have a project, Project Awaken, which will be the envy of hundreds of authorities across this country. And that actually covers children up to the age of 25. We go above and beyond the protection of vulnerable people in Blackpool through that project. So we're quite clear on that, and I'm sure Councillor Hobson will clear up all that in his contribution.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was actually going to make exactly the same 2 points that Councillor Brooks made. But while I'm on my feet, Madam Mayor, can I just say that in 9 years of being a councillor, I have never seen such appalling behaviour as you have in the chamber tonight from Councillor Galley. It's neither respectful or courteous, his behaviour. And can I suggest any further outbursts from Councillor Galley? He's asked to leave the chamber, please.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson.
is it you, Councillor Brooks? Because I want to raise something in terms of planning and land use in Councillor Williams' portfolio, but it might well be that it's more pertinent that Councillor Hugo answers for me, because she's very well versed in the matter that I'm about to discuss. So I'm sure you're aware of the planning issues and concerns that were highlighted regarding the proposed Balfour Beatty compound at Norbreck. I cannot emphasise the distress and upset caused by the recent decision of the Planning Committee to allow this development to go ahead. Residents were far from reassured of the temporary nature of the compound, having no faith whatsoever that this is going to be in situ for around 2 years. We are not fooled, they are not fooled. This compound will undoubtedly serve what is going to be a minimum 10-year project. My residents have no grounds for appeal whatsoever and feel that we as a council have not listened to their concerns. Their quality of life is going to be profoundly affected for the worse, and the value of their properties possibly irredeemably blighted. In light of these facts, and given that they are going to be living metres from what is effectively going to be a building site for a decade or more, they asked me to ask you, could you offer anything by way of recompense in terms, for example, a reduction in council tax for the duration of the existence of this compound? And finally, I must support their absolute insistence that they are consulted and have the final word in terms of the appearance of the western aspect of this compound, which is, in effect, their front garden for the next decade. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Jane Hugo. Sorry, Jane.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Sloman. Yes, I do have some sympathy with the residents in that area. Unfortunately for them, they've followed the process absolutely by the letter. We've done every stage has been completed and it hasn't gone in their favour. That's the unfortunate outcome from their point of view. And I do appreciate their concerns. The work has to be done, and from everything that we've looked into, this seems to be the most viable option, and I know that that does affect those residents, and as I say, they do have my sympathy. And I can reassure you that those residents will absolutely be consulted about how that compound looks and anything that we can do to make that area look better once the work starts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. I think we've spent enough time now on the leaders' report that was brought to us by Councillor Brooks. So I'd like to move on now, please, to the Deputy Leader of the Council, People and Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, Councillor Brooks, and the themes are local authority assurance inspections by the Quality Care Commission and working differently in adult services, strength-based approach. Over to you, Councillor Brooks.
You may or may not be pleased to know I'll present the report as written.
Any questions on theme 1? No? Moving on. Any questions on theme 2? Councillor... honest to God, my head's mashed now at the moment. I think we need to take a short recess after this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. It was simply a question with regards to theme 2. It doesn't make for easy reading, if I'm honest, in terms of how it is written. But the bottom line almost seems that there is nothing new in that theme. Our social workers and certainly colleagues of Councillor Benson have always done a marvellous job at identifying where there could be concerns in order that a person has the very best life they can. And one of them is in particular was with regards to identifying all potential benefits and potential risks of a particular activity or decision. And they've always risk assessed something that is going to happen. And then there was always an individual risk assessment to see how that activity could impact on an individual. And almost my question is, there doesn't seem to be anything new here because so often the social workers have linked in with multidisciplinary teams to give a person the very best life they can, both safely and also with regards to their home life. And so it was really almost a question, is there anything fundamentally different in theme 2 than what our excellent social workers and our adult social care team have been doing over the past years? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks.
Well, thank you, Councillor Cooper, for echoing my thoughts on what the social workers do. They do a great job. It's a hard job. It's a difficult job. And they carry it out with tremendous pride and effort. I think you think this is confusing and it's not well written. You should have seen the original draft. Because social workers are quite verbose. Even more than me, you might be pleased to know. I think if I was going to paraphrase this report, it's about a change in emphasis that we want to do stuff with and not to. And you're right, social workers do risk assessment, social workers want what's best for the individual, so they'll go out, they'll identify the problems, and they'll fix them. But what we're trying to do is move away from the, well, let's just fix the problem. Let's just do what's best for the individual going forward, not just the problem, but what other opportunities we might have with that individual. And move on. We talked about the 3 conversations model some months ago where, you know, you're not going to be talking to endless social workers explaining the same thing time after time. 3rd conversation, it's all going to be sorted. And that approach is embedded now, and it is an approach. And it's different. It's not about deficit recognition. It's about, well, how can we fix this? I'll give a blunt example. I can't get to the shops. So, well, simple thing. We'll send somebody to help you do the shopping once a week. That's not going to help me. I want to get fed, but it's not going to help me to find people in the community that might engage with me, my neighbour who might do it, the community group that might do it and have various activities on, which they do. The church groups in this town create all sorts of stuff. And if by putting that individual in contact with those people, that's how we're making a difference to that individual and looking at the positives and enriching that individual's life. So that's what I'm talking about. We're still going to do the risk assessments, but it's about doing stuff with and not to. Just because we're professional, just because we've done the risk assessment, doesn't mean that we always know best what's for the individual.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Any more questions on that? If not, we'll move on to general questions. Oh, Councillor Michelle Scott.
It's a general question, Madam Mayor, if that's okay. I suspect, Councillor Brooks, I'm not expecting much opposition to what I'm going to say now. At least I hope I don't. And it's about what's called integration. And I know we've talked about this in scrutiny, but I think it needs to be brought up here as well. Because the integration between health and social care is lacking at the moment, and residents are being abandoned into the community on the belief that the community will pick up and deal with all their needs, and that is not the case at the moment. So this is no criticism of the council. We're doing what we can through the scrutiny process, but I hope through the leadership of the council we can also work to make sure that our residents are getting what they need with a true integration approach between health and social care, because from what I'm seeing at the moment, health aren't quite meeting our residents' needs well enough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Councillor Scott, I'm not going to disagree with you. I've seen the problems, and a credit to our scrutiny committee, to be fair, by holding the ICB to account and insisting after several months that somebody at director level that we don't know, don't keep wheeling out our director of social services, wheel somebody out from the ICB and scrutiny. That's a classic example of how well our scrutiny works, because we got them to attend the last scrutiny meeting and fess up to some of the problems that are occurring. and it is a problem. It's a problem for the Integrated Care Board because they're massively overspent. They've already been told they've got to reduce their budget by 50%. We've got a hospital trust that's in special measures, and these are the people that we're relying on to deliver stuff for our residents. So we can control the social care. We can try and get people out of hospital as soon as possible. We can control, or try and control, how long they spend in there and stop them going in. Because that's the key to it all, the preventative agenda, which we're on board to, but you're quite right to highlight, the money's not coming down from the health service for us to provide proper services to keep everybody out of hospital. Because we know that once a frail person goes into the hospital, they're going to spend longer in hospital, and it's going to be worse for us when we get them out to get them back to full fitness. So I'm on the same page. Integration is struggling. I was fortunate enough to attend a session today with the Health Secretary where big changes are planned in terms of the health and social care agenda. I didn't take notes, but the one thing I took away from that was that the money that's being spent currently in propping up failing health budgets is going to be redirected into treatment, and hopefully some of that will come into the community.
Any more general questions? Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be gentle with you, Councillor Brooks. I don't come with any nasty agendas. I'm going to let you off the hook. I did ask you some time ago, I think it's a couple of councils ago, if you would get back to me and update me regarding Warren Lodge. I'm asking this question under your regulated care sector inspection and quality monitoring hat. I know you're wearing a lot of hats at the moment. Can you kindly respond when you've got the time and let me know just exactly where we are up to with that place, because it's still causing problems for the residents that are living alongside the property, and it still concerns me that it should be Ofsted regulated. We were supposed to be taking planning enforcement against them. That seems to have come to a dead halt. I don't know where we're up to, so could you update me please when you get time? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks.
I do apologise, Councillor Sloman. I thought you'd had a written response to that question on the last occasion. My apologies. I will ensure that a written response does come.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Any more general questions on that before we close this? No. Thank you very much. Just going to do one more, because I've been looking through the agenda. If we do this last one, we've probably got another 3 to go, so we can have a quick break. So I'm going to ask Jade Hugo to Cabinet Member for Climate Change to produce her documents, and then if it's okay with everybody in the room, we'll have a 10-15 minute recess. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. Yes, happy to present the report and take any questions. Thank you.
Councillor Sloman. Sorry, Councillor Sloman.
It's a very small question, really. I've had quite a lot of interesting thoughts going through some of these reports. Devil being in the detail. 1 year in Palatine's Eco Hub, it says you've delivered 1,194 consultations, but it doesn't say what the return rate of those consultations was. If you could let us know, that would be great. Thank you.
Any more questions on theme 1? No. Would you like to reply, Councillor?
Absolutely, Councillor Sloman. Happy to do that. Thank you.
Any questions on theme 2, climate adaptation? No. Any questions on theme 3, green in Blackpool? Councillor Paul Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hugo, on the tree programme that you're now embarking on through the United Utilities money, can I just confirm if you are personally responsible for the delivery of that project? Are you the accountable person? Are you the person that's overseeing this project? There are two. There are 2 questions.
Okay, well, just jump into the next one.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The second is around, I'm so pleased that you're now the deputy leader of the council. because when you were just a portfolio holder, in terms of what you could deliver for us in terms of greening the town centre was quite limited. The new tarmac desert that we've now named the Jane Hugo Tarmac Desert, with free trees and an ivy sort of wall which breaks all design processes, because you've now you created a barrier between the gay village and a big open area. Traditionally, you put the green areas in the centre and have good line of sight on the edges, but we've done it differently because we obviously know better. My worry, Madam Mayor, is that when we look at other places around the country, Bradford, and I did challenge the new deputy leader to come with me and walk from here to Stanley Park once, and she's never taken me up on the offer. So I've set a new challenge for you now, Councillor Hugo. If you would like to come with me on a train trip, I'll pay for it, so you don't have to use any of your own money. I will pay for us to go to Bradford. It's on the direct route from Blackpool North, and we'll go and have a look at what they're doing to green up their town centre, their city centre. They've closed a dual carriageway, they've revamped it, and it looks beautiful. I was there just a few months ago. It's transformed the place for the lives of the people. What do we get here, Madam Mayor? Free trees and a little ivy wall that breaks all those design principles. So, Councillor Hugo, can you please, now your deputy leader, fight growth and prosperity? Because at the moment they're winning and we're losing.
Councillor Hugo.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. So, Councillor Galley, I'm not really sure what you're getting at as am I personally responsible for the UU project. I have overall responsibility at a strategic level as the cabinet member for climate change, parks, green spaces, as is clearly outlined here. And I also was unaware that you were a qualified landscape designer because, sorry, please don't interrupt me. Because the person that designed the ivy wall actually is. We've got some very experienced and qualified people in our parks department, and I'm pleased to say that they've given their expertise to do their best with what was available with the funding and the resources we had at the time. I've told you before, it's a work in progress. It's not finished, so keep that Jane Hugo version 1, 2 and 3, and I'd like to see your opinion. I'd be very much welcome it as that area develops. I don't think you must have read the report because it does talk about 2,000 trees planted in Blackpool across the town. So how you can say that we're not achieving on this agenda item, I really don't know. And I think maybe it's because you get the tram. When I drive home in my hybrid car, before I get criticism for that, I pass many trees and green spaces and lots of landscaping. In regard to your train trip to Bradford, I'll decline, thank you very much. The leader and I had to go to London last week and we were invited, whilst we were there, if we had time, to visit Elephant and Castle, which we did. And we saw some absolutely incredible, amazing landscaped areas with a much higher budget than what we're party to, but it's given us some fantastic ideas of what we can start. We can make some space and add to it, as we're doing with the Jane Hugo Tarmac car park. And so hopefully you will see much improvement.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. Councillor Brooks, Sean Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the member and all those involved really for engaging with the community, with the Friends, with me as a ward councillor, officers and with the park users over the wildlife and fishing situation at the park recently. I believe there were over 1,000 responses to the consultation, which shows how many people care about our park, and I believe that as of today, fishing is now permitted along the historic angling embankment. I feel it's an excellent outcome that protects the wildlife in the majority of the lake, and it also gives people an area for those that enjoy fishing to pick up a rod, access it, and develop a relationship with nature that will last a lifetime, as I did when my own dad took me fishing as a youngster. Various mental health benefits with it as well, and it's just accessible. I believe it's one of the only accessible lakes in Lancashire where you can get right up to the bank, so that's great that we've been able to do that. I would welcome the numbers in how many of the respondents have offered to help. Maybe you can get me the answer by email. Maybe you need to ask Jez before he nips off, because I believe he had a role in that. But it's just really great to see a sensible answer that's allowing the park. As someone put on my Facebook, it's a piece of it for everybody. So thank you for that, and also thank you for the 2 orchards in Marton, which obviously you've got overall strategic on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. So I've got Councillor Michelle Scott. Well, sorry, I thought you'd put your hand up
Madam Mayor.
as well,
I was waving
Councillor.
frantically because you seem to not be able to see me, I don't think, across the end of the mace. It's all right, don't worry. Councillor Hugo, I'm actually very envious of all these people in Blackpool who've got trees. Councillor Danny Scott and I paid for a tree for Warbeck Ward some years ago now, and it was taken without our knowledge, without our consent, without any consultation, and we fought and we got it replaced, only to find that in January this year the replacement one was taken without any consultation, any knowledge, no discussion, and it's still missing. So if within the budget somewhere somebody could find some money to replace our tree that we paid for, or that our ward budget paid for, then we'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Councillor Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just looking on the where it says there about, you know, different ward budgets being spent alongside these trees, which the trees are fantastic, by the way, and it's nice to see them being watered because I see the truck going past and them getting the buckets of water. But with my ward budget last year, before May, I used just short of £7,000 to have a wildflower meadow on Fleetwood Road, and I thought when I initially came up with the idea and spoke to the Parks team and they quoted just shy of £7,000, I was a little bit horrified, but I thought, well, this is a massive area. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. So I went ahead with it because I thought it'll last for years to come and, you know, it'll be great for the wildlife, insects, everything like that. But I was disappointed when I've seen what is actually there. The small patches that they've dug up are less than half the size of this chamber, and all they've done is scrape the soil off. Yes, they've planted trees, which weren't part of my ward budget, but there's not a sprig of anything green coming through. And okay, it was dry, it's raining, but it just feels like, I wonder where that £7,000 was spent, because had I known that was going to be the case, I personally could have got a shovel and, you know, dug those little areas and spread some seeds for a fraction of the cost. And so now I feel kind of my residents have been let down because I'd promised this big wildflower meadow, and what we've got is these little patches of mud with not a green sprig, just a few weeds in it. So that money's gone now and not coming back. So can we look at how, well, I'd like to know how we come up with these huge costs for just such a small job, because it is such small areas that have been done, and I half wonder if some of the budget from that was put towards planting the trees, which if they were, that's absolutely fine, but I'd just like to know if that's okay. Thank you.
Councillor Hugo, would you like to answer the questions you've been asked, or would you like to take one more from Councillor Sloman?
If that's the last one, I'd be happy to, otherwise I'd rather do these.
Do the two. Oh, right. Can you do that outside? Okay, no, I'm sorry. I'll just let Councillor Hugo answer. Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, thank you, Lady Mayor. So I'll start with Lady Mayor. What did I say?
It's Madam.
Oh, sorry, I've called you Lady Mayor all night long. Okay, Madam Mayor. So to Councillor Sean Brooks on the fishing, thank you for your comments. You did have a question and it's escaped me what that question was already. Oh yes, about how many helpers. Yes, we can find out that from the consultation, thank you. And I did just want to point out that it's always a difficult situation, this. You can't please all of the people all of the time, and compromise isn't always the right way forward, but I think in this case we've found a really positive solution, and hopefully it'll satisfy the wildlife, protect those, and also give a space for fishing that can be managed well. Councillor Scott, the Warbeck tree being removed when you've paid for it, I absolutely understand your frustration, and we will look into that and ensure that a tree is replaced. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. And Councillor Ellison, yes, I completely understand why you would think £7,000 is a lot for that, and we'll find out, we'll get an explanation of the costs for that as you've requested. However, the planting in that area. I was only talking about this yesterday at the council conference. I was sat with the parks team and they were telling me that the cornflowers are now out in that patch, and next week there's one poppy, I think, so next week they're expecting that will be the optimum time to see that flourish. So hopefully, fingers crossed, next week you'll see a vast improvement in that area. And I do know that wildflower meadows are really tricky. It's you know, I've tried it. You get them bulls wherever you go, you know, little presents and things, and you chuck them in your garden and nothing happens at all. It is quite a tricky thing to achieve, but yeah, I'll get the costings explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. And under any general, Councillor Sloman, would you like to say what you were going to say, and then we're going to bring this to a close?
I'd just like to express my sincere thanks to Councillor Ellison for taking ownership of that project. I've come personally under a lot of criticism about that project. People have got in touch with me about the horrendous cost. I do share your frustration, Councillor Ellison. I would have expected Wildflower Meadow to have been just that, not two scratty patches of flowers that I probably could have planted myself. So thank you for taking ownership of that disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. Oh, hopefully, can we does everybody just want a 10-minute, 15-minute break, just to have a comfort break or some water? Respond to Councillor L. Yeah, of course. Before you respond, can I just have everybody is happy to have a break? Right, excellent. Right, Councillor Hugo.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sloman. And whilst I appreciate your frustration, I do take offence to two scratty patches of land. I think there's been a lot of thought and effort has gone into that, and as I say, you hopefully will see some fruition in that area next week. Thank you.
Can I just say now, if we can all be back in our seats by 7:45, please, so 10 minutes. Thank you. Please be seated. Can I just make a statement? It's very, very warm in here this evening, and if there's anybody would like to remove their jackets, just feel free. Please be comfortable. Thank you. So where are you up to now? There we are, yes. Jim Hobson. Oh, Councillor Benson. Can I just say before we go on, we've still got quite a few items on the agenda tonight, so if you can stick to your questions succinct and to the point, and can we be reminded to be respectful to the chair and to each other as councillors. Thank you very much. And so we're moving on to the Cabinet Member for Young People and Aspirations, Councillor Benson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to take questions, comments on my report. Thank you.
And the themes are for Councillor Benson's portfolio are opening the new Talbot and Brunswick Youth Centre and Move Together Blackpool Active Schools. Any questions on theme 1? No? Any questions on theme 2? No? Any general questions at all on Councillor Benson's? Thank you very much. Councillor Cooper and then Councillor Sloman. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a question really. I was on a recent scrutiny when we was told that the average reading age for a person in Blackpool is 11. I was pretty shocked, I have to say, by that. And with there being over 600 young people being homeschooled, teaching is a very, very difficult process. And of those 600, which will be, I know, across all the key stages, I understand that there are only, I don't know whether they would be called officers or teachers who see those children, 600 of them. And also, my understanding is that when it comes to exam times, that it's down to the parents to pay for them to enter the exams because they are not actually in a school. Now, £2,000 per subject is a phenomenal amount. And I wasn't sure whether the homeschooled children were, or the process, should I say, was also subject to being Ofsteded. Schools, we know, are Ofsteded to the end. And I also know that with regards to schools, you've got equipment for them to do sciences, craft design, technology, a variety of things. Home doesn't provide the same opportunities. So my question really, Councillor Benson, is are children seen more often, and is that service under the umbrella of Ofsted, and what is the attainment of children who are ultimately homeschooled? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you are right, Councillor Cooper. If a parent does decide to home educate their children, they have to pay for their own child's exams. That is the law. You are quite right. We have seen a massive increase. We do have a homeschooling team that go round. Very little they can do, but they do check whether that education is suitable, the environment is suitable. We do keep a track. The school admission team do visit monthly, weekly, as needed. We have seen, as I say, a massive... We are seeing some new reforms relating to home education, which will give us greater powers as an authority. We already do have a database which is more than most other authorities, so we do have a database that every child is tracked. Consent will be required if you want to take your child out of school, if that child is subject to Children's Section 47 or on a child protection plan. So we do have some extra safeguards. We already have had some conversations with the DFE. We don't actually feel that goes far enough, but the conversation was led there and they are going to be feeding back. Children that are homeschooled, they are the most vulnerable regarding safeguarding. You're quite correct. A recent joint inspection of the children's services recognised those high numbers that we do have in Blackpool and the challenges that they do face as an authority. But they were impressed with our response that it does go above and beyond. Moving on, our safeguarding team are looking at data. We need to understand why have we got a massive cohort of young people that are being home educated? What's the similarities, what's happening? So our safeguarding team are going to do some data on that. They're going to be identifying a cohort of about 20 children and going through what was the reason, why are they being homeschooled. But you're quite right, they are our most vulnerable children. Okay.
Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Benson, it's not a question, but I just want to highlight something that we have spoken about in this chamber previously. In May, the football team from Norbrec Academy had the honour of representing the town and the whole of the north of England playing in the finals of the Kids' Cup at Wembley. Major achievement. Although sadly they didn't lift the trophy, they are winners in our eyes. And on Monday, the Mayor and his consort and the Deputy Mayor very kindly hosted them and the school councillors in the Mayor's Parlour. I cannot put into words just how much positive impact that's had on our children and the things they'll take away from it. Far from wishing to monopolise the Mayor's time, I would encourage every one of you that has a primary school in your ward to see if you can bring our children up here to see our civic heritage. It means such a lot and it's made such a difference to those children. But on another thing, big thanks to the Chief Executive and the Electoral Office who put up with me nattering for the last 4 years about closing the school at Norbrec when it's polling day. Kids losing a day's education on the basis of democracy. Now that's all going to change because we've got a new venue. So thank you, and thank you to the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. And Councillor Thomas.
More of a direct question to Councillor Cooper, really, just as lived experience as a local teacher myself. Just in that you are absolutely right in terms of pupils being homeschooled. It is not the best place for them. The best place for them is absolutely in school, where you have got teachers that are safeguarding trained, that are the best possible people to support the well-being of children. There is a gap, there is a most definite gap, a very large gap in terms of attainment between pupils that are homeschooled and pupils that stay in school, and that will affect pupils' life chances. But for me, one of the largest things is our pupils and our young people's social development. So whilst a pupil is homeschooled, are they really socially developing as much as they can be and as much as they should be at that time? The answer there is no. They're not engaging with professional behaviours, with good routines, with being in school and seeing professionalism in action. And as well, their own mental health and well-being is so paramount, and you've got so many people that are trained in school to spot those patterns, those behaviours, and be able to intervene where appropriate. So you're absolutely right. The more pupils that are in school, the better.
Councillor Benson, do you want to reply now?
Yeah, I'll just reply to Councillor Sloman. Couldn't agree more. I had the nice time when I was mayor and we had lots of school children in here and they absolutely love it. They couldn't give the monkeys what cabinet member you are, but if you've got that chain on, you're absolutely fantastic. They want to know all about it, they want to know about the town hall, and let's be honest, we've got a fantastic building and we should share that. Thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. Yes, you're quite right. As an aside, I don't want to say the exact numbers, it is fairly high and growing of home educated young people, and a majority of them have possibly got unmet needs as well. So while they're not in school, those needs are not being looked at.
Thank you, Councillor Councillor Mitchell-Carl.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With more of our young people currently not in education, employment or training, school absence on the rise, attainment low and child poverty worsening in Blackpool, it's fair to say things aren't exactly heading in the right direction. So what's been done to turn these figures around? And here's a thought. Wouldn't it make sense to bring this failing portfolio under Children and Young People's Services umbrella? It would not only save money, but it'd also help us look at the picture as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that endorsement of the great job I'm actually doing.
Councillor Benson.
I'm sure Councillor Hobson would like to take on that portfolio, wouldn't you? Anyway, never mind. What are we actually doing? So if you actually see my portfolio, what it's to hand is LA responsibility for council schools, which we haven't got any. So we are at liberty to an academy system. But what are we actually doing? So at the moment, we have commissioned an inclusion review. We know we've got high numbers of children excluded relating to secondary schools. That's exclusions, permanent, high levels of attendance. So we've commissioned an independent review of all that data, and that is going to be commissioned on the advice of the DFE. So the areas that we're now covered: permanent exclusion, supervision, vulnerable groups of children, looked after children, home education, managed moves, consultation for EHCPs. So that final report will identify areas of good practice, what needs to change to support inclusive principles of equity and fairness, how to increase a sense of belonging between schools and families. That to me is one of the crucial things. We've got high levels of non-attendance in senior schools, but at primary school, we're top of the leaderboard. Funnily enough though, reception attendance isn't particularly good. Once they go into year 7, attendance gets better, but then it tails off. We need to know why are these young people not in school? I feel it's that sense of belonging. They want to be at school. We want to know, why do you not want to be at school? So we're going to have a recommended local agreement between school trusts and local authorities to a more inclusive society. We're also, for those that are on scrutiny, updating our school improvement plan. I'll just bear with me a second. I'll give you the details on that. Yeah, so that will be going to scrutiny. So we're updating it to 2027. It's going to be streamlined. It's quite a lengthy document. I don't know if anybody's actually seen it. We've got better collaboration. I did talk about the difficulties we have as a local authority engaging with our academies. That is much improved, much improved. And I have to say, our new Director of Education, I think, has played quite a good part in that better collaboration. So this strategy will be more streamlined. It will be covering visions, values, purpose and collaboration. And that will have a realistic roadmap. And I was asked last time, have we got an action plan? So behind that strategy will be an action plan with more realistic goals in it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering, when the figures and the data comes out, Councillor Benson, if it will include and be ward-specific, the data there. Because as we just alluded to what Councillor Cooper said, we've got over 600 children in Blackpool that are not going to secondary school. Now, I can give you 2 instances whereby the reason why they're not going to school is not because of homeschooling per se, it's because for the single parent, unfortunately, when they're faced with fines and even a custodial sentence if it reaches such limits, it's easier for them to hide behind the mask of we're doing homeschooling for the betterment of the child, which is clearly not the case. So when the data does come out, can you just confirm it will be ward specific, so as an authority we can tackle that for social poverty? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll probably actually have that data available to us. It does need to be broken down. I think part of the meeting that we had with the DFE, they were actually shocked at the amount of young people in this town that are homeschooled. It is a choice, and there is lots of young people that are homeschooled successfully. You know, and we would never want to stop that if that child's education. But yeah, there will be a very interesting, I'm sure, I can't say the word, but you know, connection between which wards those young people are schooled in. And I will make sure that we get that data. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question for you as to what powers the council has with regard to, I was informed by 2 different individuals, totally not connected with each other, who both have children at a certain school children ranged between the ages of 14 and 15 who were briefed during an assembly by a senior teacher with regard to the dangers of the far right. Which is fine, absolutely everybody should be versed with the dangers of the far right and the extreme left. But they went on to describe Reform UK as a far right organisation. What can be done to deal with this outrageous political indoctrination?
I don't actually know how to answer that, to be honest. I think you're going to have to give me some more details and I'll speak to our Director of Education. It's not something that I've picked up and it would be down to the schools curriculum or something. I can't honestly answer that. And I'm not going to give you my opinion on it at all. But if you'd like to give me a bit more detail, ping us an email and we'll look into it. Okay.
Councillor Sean Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding the literacy aspect and the links that we've got, obviously we don't control the academies, but I'm not sure if you need to work maybe with Councillor Farrell on this one, but we do have an excellent library service and we also have Borrow Box. I'm currently reading a book, for potentially you, Councillor O'Neill, Underdogs, The Truth About Britain's White Working Class, which is very interesting and doesn't go in the lines that you maybe would think it would do. So I would encourage all our children to read, to sign up to the library, to get Borrow Box and to take full advantage of the facilities that we, as a Labour Council, have protected and continue to invest in. Thank you.
Benson.
Thank you very much. I did know about the libraries. Thank you very much, Sean. Councillor Brooks. Yes, absolute fantastic resource. Can't say any more. Yeah, encourage your children to read more books and do work quite heavily with the Literacy Trust. I don't think I've been to an event where there's not been books to be given away. Please give them to your children. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Councillor Farrell, did you want to come in?
I was just going to raise the point that we do work in partnership with the Literacy Trust as well. But sorry, Madam Mayor, while I'm on my feet, I might as well just say, you know, that our libraries aren't just for books. There's loads of activities going on. They are really community hubs. Each library manager is tasked with putting activities on for the community that they're in. There's loads and loads of stuff going on. So every week there's an activity list for each library. One of our library managers describes them as the living rooms of Blackpool, which I really, really like. So yeah, encourage, and you know, I'm so passionate about libraries, I could go on about it all night, Madam Mayor, but I won't. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Any more general questions?
I'm not finished.
Sorry?
I just want to come back on that.
Sorry, Councillor Benson.
In Leighton, we had tango with the library. I never thought I'd see people tangoing round the shelves. But no, Councillor Fowler was quite right. Absolute fantastic resource and we should be proud of them. Thank you.
Excellent. If there's no more general questions on this, we shall move on to Cabinet Member for Community Safety, Street Scene and Neighbourhoods, Councillor Paula Burden.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I would just like to present the report as read, but there are a couple of points I'd like to make about each of the themes, and just that with the road maintenance and improvement in this financial year, there'll be 11 million available, which will be spent across road resurfacing, the town centre access scheme, tramway maintenance, traffic signal upgrades, road safety measures around schools, and sorry, I've repeated myself, the town centre access scheme. The town centre access scheme involves George Street, Cookson Street, Corn Street, Grosvenor Street and Talbot Road, for all that need to know. So that area all that area around the multiversity will look very different and should be completed by the end of the year. Theme 2, Blackpool Summer of Action. This is mainly town centre and involves mainly the town centre in Queen Street, and it's an approach of zero tolerance around ASB in the nighttime economy. If there are any questions around that, happy to answer them. Theme 3, Community Safety Development Plan. It gave me great pride to be involved with the Community Safety Partnership Development Day and listen as representatives from partnership agencies spoke highly of not only the effective relationships they have developed, but also of best practice in Blackpool and of their positive experience working with our council compared with their negative experiences working in local authorities elsewhere. The draft strategy is planned to be signed off in November this year. Happy to take any questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burdes. Any questions on any of the themes? Theme 1, highway and delivery. We've got Councillor Sloman and Councillor Baker. Sorry, Councillor Baker. Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We hear again in your report about the great things that are happening in terms of repairing the potholes in the road, and I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that a large number of my residents' inquiries are about our road surfaces. Whilst your report suggests, for laudable reasons, that most of the new funding will be concentrated on the key corridors connecting and supporting local businesses, it means once again that many of the roads people live on and use every day to go about their business are likely to be overlooked, with emphasis once again on the town centre. Roads are not just used by cars getting from A to B. They are traversed by us living our day-to-day lives as pedestrians, visually impaired people with mobility issues, all of whom need to be able to navigate the road surfaces to access their own homes, cross the roads with their children, and also keep safe on the pavement without being fearful of cars mounting the pavement to avoid potholes. I have made many reports on behalf of my residents. In a survey response to one report I made, the survey came back and refers to extensive surface erosion, but all below the COP intervention level. Several metres of Maplewood Drive and Mossam Lane are affected, but there will be no remedial or further preventative work because some aspects of the erosion fall a few millimetres short for intervention thresholds. I've waited over a year for the road markings to be renewed at Shaw Road, adjacent to Norbreck School. There have been several near misses because of people approaching what is an unusual junction who haven't been there before and aren't sure where to go. It's particularly dangerous at school times. And your report refers also to roads near 9 schools which will now be safer for our children. May we be enlightened to which of these schools are, and dare I hope one of them is Norbreck Academy. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Burdes, would you like to reply to each one separately?
Yes, I would actually. When you're talking about the highway delivery, the road maintenance and improvement, much of the wear on the Blackpool network is through its unique usage, where we experience unusually high peaks of traffic volumes through the year, through public events, holiday traffic, etc., which compromises the surface of ageing highways. There exists, and we all know, the eternal conundrum of what constitutes a pothole. And often repairing, patch repairing actually affects, it is of detriment to the whole road surface. So there are so many different considerations when treating these areas. But as just to go back, we do use the highways are monitored really, really carefully through the GACE system, and where immediate repair is needed, then immediate repair takes place, and it prioritises the repairs. There are over 300 miles of road, and as you can see, you know, what is needed to be done most efficiently, most urgently, is done. And unfortunately, in some cases, it doesn't seem that this isn't the answer that members would like, but there are other more serious and more important cases to deal with as priority. In terms of the roads around schools, there are 12 schools which we completed in the first phase. There are some areas that we have to revisit with the head teachers. So I'm I'm not prepared to give the areas at this point because there could be changes to that list at this time. But as to the other questions that you've asked and the technical explanation for why that repair didn't happen, we can look into that and get a further answer from officers for you. Thank you.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is good news, actually. As you all know, I've banged on for 6 years about no bus service across the Moss. And I've even written to Blackpool Transport several times about it and got the wrong answer each time. However, I don't know whether it's anything to do with this government grant, but I received a letter this month, well, last month actually, about they are now going to put a 5A bus, an extended route on 5A, so that it does take in part of the Moss. Only a very small part of it, but it is a step in the right direction. I just have to get the people in the ward using the bus, actually, when it happens in late September. But I just want to say thank you for that. It's been a long time coming, but thank you.
Councillor Bides.
Sorry, I'll pass the thanks on to BTS, but it's not part of my portfolio. Sorry.
Councillor Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, it's just with regard to the schools and the roads. I hope that one of the 12, sorry, that you're looking at will also, as well as Norbreck, also include Westcliff Primary School. I have been in touch with several residents and with the council with regard to the entrance to the school there that is really unsafe. So I hope that the reason that's been sort of postponed and not sort of had any resolve is down to the fact that this review is coming up, because I think it is really necessary. But I hope the review has quite a wide scope, because all the schools in the area are crowded outside the entrances. You know, it's a huge problem at every school. I don't think there is any school in the area that's actually cracked, dropping the children off and not having, you know, cars parked everywhere and it just being bedlam. There's other systems in other countries where they don't drop the children off and then hang around for a while before and after school, you know, where they drive past, drop the children off and somebody take them into school so they don't have the traffic congestion. Can we look at, I'm not saying that answer, but can we look at some other ways, because clearly it is a huge problem for residents and the children. I mean, there is so many near misses. Look at outside the box and not just make it a tick box exercise, so we can really make some change to some of these schools in the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellison. All I can assure you of is that we are working very closely with the head teachers of the schools, and the legal process for developing these new schemes is complete. So it's all but a few tightening up the schemes around the schools to make them most efficient and most effective. And what we do, and I hear what you're saying about the change in behaviour. You know, for those of us in this room who are drivers, it's about all of us taking our part in that. It's about all of the parents taking their share of that responsibility. It's about, you know, all of us, schools, the council, parents, even teaching our young people how to cross the road. As a driver, you know, we all know how the risks that pedestrians take as well. That's adults and children. So it's about all of us changing our behaviour and working together to make sure these new schemes work. Thank you. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly on the schools while we're talking about it, I'm pleased to hear that one of the schools in my ward is being looked at. My only concern is, can we have some enforcement around it? I was told that before 9 o'clock no enforcement was possible because of certain restrictions, which is a bit short-sighted in the fact that most of the problems happen before school time. So could that be looked at, for one thing? My main point is around pavements. I believe that when utility companies put in utilities that we, well, the council and all of us have a right to expect that they replace pavements exactly how they were supposed to be, in the condition that they were supposed to be, at no cost to the council. So my question is, can we not enforce this more to ensure that all our pavements are put back in a really good state, because it won't cost the council anything? This again needs more enforcement, but could that possibly be looked into as well, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor, for your question. I'm not sure about the pavements. I'm not sure whether you were asking about enforcement with utilities companies. Have I got that correct? Yeah. So there is a period of time when they have done work. There's a period of, I think, is it 6 months, where they of grace that they have in between doing the work. So if there's any snags, any further issues, they can go back in and whatever. So we do have to honour that. And it is enforced, but there is a period of time between them doing the work. And, you know, so all I can do is assure you that we do enforce that, you know, them restoring the pavement to the state that it should, that it began in. In schools around the concern around enforcement, yeah, that is a problem the country over, because of the number of schools that we have, and because it is that small window of time in the mornings and in the afternoons right across the borough. So we will do what is in our power to do in those times. So once these new schemes are introduced, the enforcement will increase, and we will use our rotas creatively so that the enforcement is meaningful. So that's the only thing I can assure you of. But also we have increased the number of staff on our traffic enforcement team. So glad to share that news with all the members.
Councillor Brooks, Sean Brooks.
Thank you, Madam. I'm up a lot tonight, aren't I? I just wanted to thank you for the report. As it comes under highways, I just want to thank him for the filling in of several potholes in Martin recently. We've also had the roundabout done just on the edge of the ward, which I believe was state-of-the-art, and it was done overnight with heat treatment, so that was all really good to see. But really, I want to thank you for the replacement surface and the resin finish on the gate, at the Beachfield gate entrance to Stanley Park. It's made it much safer, it's disability friendly, and it also looks wonderful in the finish that's there. So if anyone's been to the cricket today or been to the park, they might have enjoyed that gate. It's just good to see Blackpool looking good. If anyone wants to report a pothole, because I'm aware we've talked about it a lot tonight, it's dead easy. We've made it so easy. blackpool.gov.uk/potholes. That's how hard it is. Take a photo of it, upload it, and they will fix it if it's within the scope. I agree the scope is national, but it's there. It's really easy to do. So please do it, guys.
Councillor Paul Wilshaw.
It's more of a thank you to Councillor Ellison for raising the points at Westcliff School. Just like to point out, Westcliff School is in Bispham, but as years have gone by, a lot of things have happened to help with the issues around there. Not by myself, but former Councillor Clapham. But yeah, so I'm glad that she's raised the points, because the issues are still ongoing. Thank you.
Sloman.
It's just to come back, Councillor Burdis, on what you said about what constitutes a pothole. I would say that extensive erosion on a road surface is likely to become a pothole. And rather, you know, it's an old adage, a stitch in time saves 9. And if these measurements that we're using are down to millimetres and we aren't filling eroded areas in because of a few millimetres, is there any scope then to revise the intervention levels? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ellison. I don't think there is any scope to revise it, because it's a legal thing. It's a national guideline for highways. And there is a difference between a pothole or a defect through wear in course. And that's potentially what where the kind of difference is between what you and what ourselves as lay people, most of us as lay people, consider potholes and what technically is a pothole. So this is the kind of general misunderstanding right across the board, but no, I don't think we can effect a change in national guidelines as to what constitutes a pothole. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Brydes, and thank you, Julie Sloman. Councillor Sloman. Is it on the same thing? Because we're only on theme 1 now and it's getting a bit silly, like. Okay. Last question on theme 1.
I know you're saying we work to national guidelines. There are a lot of things where we work to national guidelines, but surely, again, with a town with a proud motto of progress, why can we not work above those guidelines? Surely we should be aspiring to be better. Thank you.
If you want to bring this to an end, this one, thank you, Councillor.
I can take the point and I'll pass it on.
Okay. Moving on to theme 2, Blackpool. Oh my word. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just acknowledgement for the Public Protections team. The report mentions the work that they're doing, and in my experience, when matters have been reported, they've been proactive and also carrying out preventative measures. Where it's fallen down is where police intervention has been needed, and that hasn't been so readily forthcoming. So if we can plug that gap between council responsibility and police responsibility and make sure that those issues don't fall into a big black hole, that would be very welcome. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Councillor Burdett.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. I hear what you're saying about police intervention or the speed of or delay in. Whatever influence we have over that, we will use. We do work very, very closely with the police, and certainly with the Blackpool Summer of Action, clearly a large part of the campaign is around there being able to enforce in those situations. So it is about building relationships, and thankfully we have a very good one. So it's likely that in the future we will see the service improving, and that is our hope and our ambition.
Any more questions on theme 2? If not, we'll move on to theme 3, community safety plan development. Any questions? No? Any general questions? Councillor. I was looking at you, and I do, Councillor Carl Mitchell, and I do apologise, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was asked to increase the parking limit on Rutherford Place from 20 minutes to an hour to help support local businesses. Sensible request. You'd imagine someone from the council, they'd pop round with a Sharpie, scribble out 20, write in 60, job done. 18 months later, I'm still waiting. Why? Because of something called the batch system, a secret society of red tape enthusiasts. Then I have another request to add a few more metres of yellow lines to a junction, a no-brainer because it's accidents. Residents understandably assume the council worker will swing by with a tin of paint, get it sorted, and once again the batch system strikes, my request disappears, never to be heard from again. I'm not the only councillor to fall victim to this process. It makes us look like we don't care. And the really frustrating part, we trust the council to handle the complex stuff, budgets, infrastructure, the general running of Blackpool, and yet it takes years to change a number or paint a line. Seriously, what can be done to speed up this process? The parking affects businesses, and the yellow lines are about safety and accident reduction.
Councillor Burdett.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Mitchell. Again, it's our understanding of, as lay people, of what the batch system describes. What runs behind the batch system is a lot of legal work that needs to be done before any of these changes can be made. It's not as simple as responding to a purchase order. There's a lot of pre-work and legwork that needs to be done before the change can be. I mean, it goes to, you know, it goes right to central government. So the changes are not as simple as they would seem. We are using a new system though, which is speeding things up. So hopefully in the future, you won't have to wait as long. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I welcome the ban on disposable vapes for the safety and well-being of our residents and young people in the town, and for cleaner streets in our town as well. Can you give us any update on the enforcement of on those by the council? Thank you.
Just going to take one more, Councillor O'Neill first, and then Councillor Galley last, and then we're going to bring this one to an end.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A friend of mine in his 70s was very recently served a Section 21 no-fault eviction notice. He'd lived in that house for more than a decade, and he spoke with his landlord to find out the landlord lent 2 properties out. One of the tenants is having problems with regard to paying the rent. But he's one of these landlords who is not cash rich, nor is he asset rich, because he's paying a mortgage on those properties. The reason he's got the Section 21 notice is because the property is being sold. The landlord doesn't want to work as a landlord anymore because of the selective licensing. The issue he finds with the selective licensing is that they haven't got the cash to upfront pay this money. Most of the ones, I've now been inundated with landlords, and essentially they're paying about £1,000 per property. Now, that's not the full cost of it. There's discounts available, but it's the time taken to actually fill out the paperwork. It's the EPC ratings, which they're working on to brief. So it's coming out about £1,000. Most of the ones I've spoken to, who are not giving up, said they're going to put that on to the next 12 months in rent. So they're going to recoup that money. That then would be indicative of a spike in rental charges. So something like this policy is driving up rental costs in Blackpool. Some of the other landlords, they've heard this amazing deal from Serco, this 5-year deal from Serco. So some of them actually engaged with Serco on this and asked them what the score was. 5 years above market rate rent. So another driver on prices, rental prices in Blackpool. And then after that 5 years, they get a full refurb of the property. However, toward the end of the conversation with the Serco representative, they said they've currently met their quota in Blackpool, so they're not taking any more on, but they're in talks with the council to start taking more of these properties on. So, really, essentially got 2 questions for you. The first one is, what is that quota? And the second one is that many of these landlords who I've spoken to were not engaged in this consultation process, which I believe is a statutory instrument. Many of them have not been engaged, knew nothing about the consultation, and indeed neither did their tenants. So are you able to share with me the data for that consultation? Thanks very much.
I can't share that with you because I don't have it, but I can get it. I'm very surprised that they feel that they haven't been included in the consultation because there has been considerable customer engagement in that process, and even up to this week, the last meeting that I had with the team, there are letters being sent to every landlord. So I'm very surprised that they weren't aware of this. As I say, I don't have the facts and figures to hand, but all that I would say is with the selective licensing scheme, the reason we have it is to uplift the standard of private rental accommodation, and some of the problems that you alluded to in your question are precisely the reasons why we have made the decision to to progress the scheme, because everybody has a right to an energy efficient a house of a good standard through rental. You know, if they pay a fair rent, they deserve a quality home, and that's all we're seeking to achieve. So I will get the answers for you, the data you've asked for. Not much more to add. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Paul, sorry, thank you, Paul. Councillor Gallett, and then we're going to move on, so please keep it as...
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Burtis, in the Casey report, there is extensive coverage of the role of taxis. Chapter 7, page 138, talks about, as a key part of the nighttime economy, taxis have historically been identified as a key way children can be at risk of sexual exploitation. As the person that gave Uber the licence to operate in Blackpool, and the person who's responsible for issuing the licences, could I just ask, what did you do to ensure our children were safe from any of the drivers that have come to Blackpool?
Thank you, Councillor Galley. I'm fully aware of the Casey report, and we acknowledge the recommendations of Baroness Casey report and support the position, and we'll be happy to work with the Department of Transport in their efforts to determine how the statutory guidance can be strengthened to better protect the people of Blackpool and of the nation in its entirety. In terms of, it's not just about Uber, it's every taxi driver. Any changes, any statutory changes affect every driver. So where the government, the Department of Transport, are urged to make statutory change, this will affect every taxi driver and make the checks and balances more robust than we currently have in place, and we welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burtis. Moving on to Addendum 5F, Cabinet Member for Communities and Wellbeing, Councillor Joe Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As previously mentioned this evening, Blackpool welcomed West Street in the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care this morning to hear about the NHS 10-year plan that will tackle how to tackle health inequalities. It was great to hear that there will be a move to the prevention of illness rather than just treating illness, which will have a huge impact on our residents in Blackpool. The NHS will have a new funding formula which will ensure that funding goes to where the need is greatest. Although no sums were given for Blackpool, there will be more money for primary care, which is obviously great news for all of us, and funding to enable the NHS locally to act as one of the engines for local economic growth by improving skills and employment, enabling local people to work within the NHS. The Secretary of State talked about the importance of Project Search, which, as members know, is a very successful programme here in Blackpool, working with our young people, and we are the only local authority in Lancashire who have doubled the number of interns this year. I attended the graduation last week, and a number of our interns have already had placements at Blackpool Victoria Hospital and the Harbour, so more funding to enable more of our young people to experience working within the NHS is absolutely very welcome. Once I know more about the funding and the plans for Blackpool, obviously I'll keep Council updated. Happy to present my report and take any questions.
Any questions on theme 1? New recovery hub opens? No? And theme 2, public health trainers. Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your very detailed report, Councillor Farrell. It sparked quite a lot of interest for me, personally. I met last year with one of the senior staff on the piers. We discussed the fact that the piers are often the focus for suicide attempts of desperate people, which inevitably has impact on the staff members on duty. Now, you wouldn't automatically think people working on the piers would face these challenges in the day-to-day employment, but they do, and they are very much unequipped to approach the challenges effectively to support these very desperate individuals and then process the impact on themselves as an aftermath. Is there somewhere within the context of the service provision of public health trainers that you've outlined that could provide some support and training as a positive intervention before the fact, rather than these staff having to deal with their own mental well-being as an aftermath? Thank you.
Absolutely, Councillor Sloman. I mean, we work in partnership with the RNLI as well, and they have received the training from our public health, because obviously there's a lot of trauma when they go out to sea. We will offer that training to the peers as well. Absolutely no problem at all.
Thank you. Any more questions? And general questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had two questions. First, I wanted to pick up Councillor Farrell on the visit today of the Health Secretary. I picked up his comment, it's got some of the worst health outcomes in the country, including life expectancy. Now, I don't want to be too obvious here, but when we look at who's responsible for this, early 1990s, 1995, Labour win control of Blackpool. And what's happened ever since? The life expectancy over time has started to go down. And not only in a little bit, but in the fact that we now have two different Blackpools you've managed to create. It's something I talked about in February's budget. We have Living Road, for example. One end of Living Road, we have life expectancy 73. The other end, it's 78. At the other end, it's 68. You get ill in Bloomfield when you're 52, you never get better. Congratulations, guys. We have a health secretary coming here. We sound like a third world state. Having lived in a third world state, I actually have started to compare that data now to what's going on in Zimbabwe and Mozambique. And it's becoming scary because they're improving and we're going backwards. We can't blame it just on COVID because other areas of the country have started to improve. So a huge concern that this has been allowed to happen. And the very fact that the crucial area now is, as you've said, is getting people to talk to each other. It's not just about fixing them when they rock up at Blackpool Victoria. But you've got to take some responsibility. You no longer have a Conservative government that you can blame for this. At some point, you're going to have to own this and say, these are our wards, and we are therefore responsible. How are we going to fix it? The other question, back in February, I don't know if you recall, January's full council, Councillor Farrell, I brought up the high ropes. This wonderful scheme that we borrowed £320,000 for. We then took money from the leisure centre at Stanley Park, and that sports centre has paid back the loan of £390,000. So we took public money from a revenue-based service to pay off a loan. Now we hear that the council's put in a plan, everybody, Ms Med, I don't know if you knew this, sorry, Madam Mayor, if you were aware of this, to demolish this white elephant. So who's going to pay for that? Which revenue budget's going to pay for that? I passed it on to the auditors, but have we carried out a review on how this has happened? Because it is a shambles. At a time we've got no money. Constantly I've heard over the last 14 years we've got no money, and yet we're borrowing money for white elephants that have to come out of revenue services. It's happened under your portfolio. We've got officers around who may be responsible. I don't know, but I guarantee not one of them has been chastised over it. Nobody's done a review on it, and those same people will be coming to our finance director and saying, can I borrow some money for my latest scheme? And with that track record, the answer should be no.
Councillor Farrell.
Okay. First of all, we've had 14 years of austerity. That has a massive effect on this town, and that was your government. So there isn't going to be, we own the data, but there isn't going to be a quick fix to this. This is generational change. It's about the wider determinants of health. It's about dealing with the housing. We are dealing with housing. We've had 90 million. And that, you know, you talk about the areas of Bloomfield. That's where this 90, you know, with the Revo area, we've got that work ongoing, and we've got our housing company as well, improving our standards of living in our housing. We've got our skills and education as well. We've got our Work Well programme that started in Blackpool. We've got our Connect to Work programme. That is about improving the life skills of our residents. We've got Move Together to Blackpool to ensure that our residents are moving. There is loads of activities that will improve their health and well-being. We've got our early years service, so we're starting right from the day that the babies are born. We've got our family hubs providing supports to our families. There is a huge amount of work going on. It's not going to be a quick fix at all. You know, we've got the recovery hub in my report, an absolutely fantastic service that has taken a couple of years to get up, but that will provide. It's a lifeline for our residents that are most vulnerable, suffering from addiction issues, and they can now have that support that they need at the time when they need it. And it's absolutely fantastic. And please go and see it, because it's just a fantastic service for Blackpool. Your question about high ropes. I think this is the third time that you've brought it. You know, the audit committee can look at this. I'm happy for the audit committee to have a look at this. You know, as previously, and I'm just going to read it. I did prepare a statement because I thought you might bring this up again. As previously documented, the High Ropes course at Stanley Park closed after the 2022 season. As the facility was running at a loss, and I've explained the reasons why the schools didn't want to use the facility, as was 10 years ago, it was a really exciting facility to have, but then the schools, you know, because of the government and lack of funding, didn't have the funds to use the facility. It was agreed that it would remain closed during the 23-24 financial year. During this time, consideration was given to whether the facility should be part of a wider offer. However, we've decided that in a changing leisure environment, there is not the demand required to support this sort of provision, and the decision was made to permanently close the course. While the course has been closed, it has been inspected on a regular basis. The structure itself is safe, but it makes sense to demolish it now rather than dealing with ongoing maintenance issues, especially when we have no intention of reopening it. There are signs of deterioration of the wooden poles, which means it couldn't reopen as a leisure facility without investment. We are considering future uses of the site, which will be in keeping with the adjacent leisure facilities. Don't know what that looks like. We're having conversations. We're having conversations with Sport England and Move Together Blackpool. But yeah, that's all I can say. Take it to the audit committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Jim Hobson.
Thank you, Madam. Happy to present my report and take questions. Of course, I'm going to deal with Councillor Galley's report that is put out into the public domain. Councillor Brooks has covered some of the points that I was going to cover, so I'll just cover the other bits. So, Councillor Galley's report cites a number of inspections reports of our safeguarding arrangements. But Councillor Galley's report willfully omits recent inspections in an attempt to paint a misleading picture. Councillor Galley does not mention our last Ofsted report of February 23 that says, children who are at risk of exploitation receive an excellent service from the Awaken team. The response is prompt, well-coordinated and effective. Assessments are thorough, timely and holistic. The progress and impact of plans are regularly reviewed, and this targeted support is reducing risks to children. Councillor Galley also neglects to mention our inspection of our safeguarding arrangements of November 24, not just by Ofsted, but of the Care Quality Commission and HM Inspectorate of Police. That says, when children are identified as being risk of child exploitation, they benefit from the support of a multidisciplinary specialist team called Awaken. This is a highly valued team whose members are making a positive impact in the support and reduction of risk for these highly vulnerable children. The Awaken team has a culture of learning and high ambition and is led by capable, knowledgeable, experienced managers. Effective systems are in place and professionals make sure that complex risks to children received continued multi-agency support. But most disappointingly, Madam Mayor, Councillor Galley has not spoken to our officers in Children's Services before rushing to publish this report. Had he done so, they would have said they do not recognise some of the figures quoted in that report. The quoted figure for sexual offences recorded against people under the age of 18 encapsulates a wide spectrum of concerns, none of which I want to play down, but the paper provided by Councillor Galley is just about CSE. I know that recorded offences of CSE presents just a small percentage of that figure quoted by Councillor Galley, and they include reports of historic offences when victims come forward in adulthood to share their story and seek justice. Have no doubt, we accept and acknowledge CSE is a problem in Blackpool, but it is a problem in every town and city in this country. Councillor Galley is also right to say there are challenges for our young people in Blackpool that heighten the risk of CSE here, which is exactly why we invest so heavily in our Awaken team. I was going to go on to say that we're now, obviously, the government is now has committed to the national inquiry, that I will be writing to the Home Secretary to be a part of, and also asking to look at Blackpool as an area of excellence. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson. Any questions on Councillor Hobson's themes? Blackpool Families First Partnership Programme? You just need to wait for the general questions, please, Councillor Sloman. So none on the first theme. Second theme of the report is performance in children's services. Councillor Diane Mitchell. I'm going to take this paper home and memorise it. I am so sorry, Diane. Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to confirm that Awaken is an absolute fantastic service. Having been a foster carer for 20 years for Blackpool, my only criticism would be trying to access the service. We would often have to twist the arm of an individual social worker to actually believe us that a child needed the services of Awaken. So if that could just be looked into, I absolutely agree that Awaken is an absolutely incredible service. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Michelle Scott? Yes.
It's just a request, please, Councillor Hobson. I understand that when reporting, the requirement is to report on children in care per 10,000 of the population. But it would be very helpful to have the actual numbers, if that could be provided, because for our residents, these reports are for them as well, and reporting per 10,000 is not very meaningful. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do you want to reply, Councillor Hobson?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Councillor Mitchell, Awaken's great. I was unaware of the issue that you raised to me. If you want to pop me an email at some point in the next couple of days, I promise you will have that looked at. So thank you. Councillor Mrs Scott, yeah, it's a fair point on that, but I do believe scrutiny do get those figures, but it's a fair point. If I can just make a point generally about these figures, Madam Mayor, we're very proud of the direction of travel with most of our metrics in children's services, to the point where the DFE are now asking struggling councils to come and have a look at what Blackpool are doing. So members will be aware that we've got an Ofsted inspection sometime around November. Now, I think the words welcoming it is probably a bit over the top, but we're certainly very happy to be showing Ofsted the work we've been doing for the last 3 years. Thank you.
Any general questions? Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sort of 90% on the same page as you, Councillor Hobson. I've seen, having worked in children's services in this town and around Lancashire since the last century, 19 whatever. I've seen the changes. I think the work is absolutely fantastic. I do need to emphasise, however, what Councillor Galley is asking for is to look at things retrospectively to find out how we got to the situation that we did, where sexual exploitation, county lines, was allowed to flourish within this town. There are unique features that have allowed that. I'm very much one for, irrespective of who comes up with the idea or who changes the mind or whatever, if it's the right thing we do, we celebrate it. I find myself in this very, very queer place over here that I actually congratulate the Prime Minister with the benefit now of further information of turning round and changing his mind. And I really want to emphasise, because there are keyboard warriors out there, there are people reading the gutter press that are suggesting that we are wrangling, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are wrangling over the glory for now chasing this issue of sexual exploitation of our children. It's been going on for years. There have been people, professionals like myself, statutory bodies, other people that have been calling for an inquiry. It's all coming together now, and the dog whistle that Reform are putting out, that we are wrangling over this, and we are only now responding to it because Reform, if there's a dog whistle, because Reform have bought this up.
Excuse me.
I want to challenge that within this chamber and within this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, you're not allowed, you can't do that with somebody speaking, because everybody needs to listen, not jump in. So if you want to speak, then please raise your hand the right way and we'll do that. Okay, thank you.
Chair, I saw Councillor Flanagan's got his hand up. I'm quite interested to hear his comment before I reply, if that's okay.
Okay.
Being the Chair of Scrutiny.
Well, Councillor Mitchell was... no, sorry, that was last time. Yeah, Councillor...
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gelly. I'm glad you gave me the opportunity because there's much to say on it. I've witnessed Councillor Gelly's report on the child exploitation and it just clearly hasn't followed the proper scrutiny process. This is not how serious safeguarding matters should be handled. As Chair of the Children and Young People Scrutiny, I must emphasise that our scrutiny process exists precisely to ensure thorough, evidence-based examination of critical issues affecting children's welfare. By your own admission, or by Councillor Galley's own admission, some of that data was incorrect. Had we followed the scrutiny process, that would have been picked up on before it became public record. The evidence shows a troubling pattern. Professor Alexis Jay, who led the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, has explicitly warned against the weaponisation of child sexual abuse and stated she would not give oxygen to those politicising the issue. Her inquiry heard from 7,300 victims. The evidence reviewed suggests that Councillor Galley's report was compiled without engaging council officers who work daily on these issues, without consulting the scrutiny team responsible for its oversight, and without utilising the established frameworks we have in place. Only 3 weeks ago, I chaired the Scrutiny Work Plan meeting where the subject of CSE was discussed. Action was agreed for a deep dive review, as promised the last time I stood on this subject. The Chamber may be surprised to hear there was not a single representation from the Conservative side that came to that meeting to contribute. So if it's such an important issue, starts in everybody, with respectfully, if I could finish what I'm about to say, there's plenty of Conservative members that sit within that scrutiny that were invited and chose not to attend. When Professor Jay's final report was published in 2022, the Conservative government took 7 months to respond, yet critical that within that same time frame, this side of the room, at our last meeting, asked for that amendment to be going, and it was simply to ask that that inquiry was completed before we made a decision. That's what happened, and that's what we did. Finally, I have the great pleasure to chair a children's charity which works with young people with a range of challenges and life experience, and I want to acknowledge the profound courage of victims, survivors and their families. Behind every statistic is a child whose innocence was stolen, families' lives were shattered, and communities left searching for answers. Your voices matter, your experience has driven necessary change, and your bravery in speaking out continues to protect other children. We see you, we believe you, and we are committed to ensuring that the failures of the past are never repeated. Every decision we make must honour your experience and put victim welfare first. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Flanagan. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Scrutiny, as set out, Madam Mayor, in the Section 21 of the Local Government Act 2000, clearly lays out what its role is. Scrutiny shouldn't be looking at it. If I was to do it through the mechanisms you talk about, I would do it through audit. Audit is there to identify the problems. Scrutiny is there to fix them. We don't even know what the problem is. I found some data. I've done a lot of work to get that data. Colleagues have asked data. Representatives from the public have asked for that data. You get sent on a wild goose chase trying to get that data. Councillor Hobson, you say I didn't go to officers. In the report, it literally says officers were asked the following questions. We asked the officers. And guess what they said? Could we see the data before 2000? Could we see the data of how many people have been convicted as a result of the work of Awaken? The answer comes back, anything before 2020 is not accessible. So I wanted to know is, well, and I was generally shocked, is, well, why is it not accessible? Do our officers not know? Do we not store it? Is it not safe somewhere? Could they not go and find it? Because what that will do is allow us to establish the pattern. Is it going up like skyscrapers or is it going down? And I also wanted to find out as well is have you ever asked about how many victims exist in Blackpool? Because it's amazing, Madam Mayor, isn't it? All this talk tonight about CSE and Blackpool grooming gangs, county lines gangs. Crikey, don't even talk about them. They're off the roof, off the scale, Madam Mayor. But this council cares so much about. We're waiting for the report to come back, Councillor Flanagan. Apparently, yeah, that's why it's not even in any of your agendas. Right? It's not even in any of your agendas. That's how much you care. If I hadn't have done this, Madam Mayor, and it is my right as a citizen of the United Kingdom to actually say, no, I want to do a report, and I actually told you on the night, there's a YouTube video out of there of me saying I'm going to do it, that I will go and ask for an inquiry because you lot wouldn't, then the key point there, Madam Mayor, is if we hadn't have done that, we wouldn't be asking for an inquiry tonight. The only request I have for yourself, Councillor Robson, because I don't know where we are with what your work is, but you now own this, right? You are responsible. You're the responsible portfolio holder, as was the leader previously when she was the portfolio holder, and the previous deputy. All of these people have been portfolio holders. You are now responsible for that. Great, we now established that. What's really important is this cannot be a closed word inquiry. So I would like to arrange a meeting with yourself and that together, because I haven't politicised it, the only people who are talking about political parties being involved in this are yourselves, is I would like us to meet and then together ask that question together. Would that be acceptable?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Carl Mitchell.
Thank you. This is a general question, is that all right?
Excellent. Sorry, did you want to reply? No, if you want to reply now to Councillor Galley, and then you can do one at a time.
Well, I think Councillor Sloan was actually first up, Madam Mayor, if that's okay.
Well, I've got them written down here as they came in, so I know it was Councillor Mitchell was actually before Councillor Galley, but because Councillor Flanagan spoke and wanted to reply, that's the way it was done.
For me, Madam Mayor, I've got 4 responses to 4 people.
You can indeed, yes.
Sorry, I will deal with Councillor Sloman's points first. Sorry? Yeah, I mean, Councillor Sloman mentioned, why is it taking so long for us to get to this point, and there's been all this historical stuff going back to the 2000s. Yeah, that's a fair point, I guess. However, the situation now in terms of what we are doing as a council is a complete other world. And if you go back and read these reports that I cite, you will see that the work we're doing is amazing. You also mentioned the change of heart from the government. I think Councillor Brooks may have covered this earlier. We changed our mind because Baroness Casey changed her mind. That's why. We just took advice from the experts. You mentioned something about colleagues from Reform. I don't think that would be appropriate for me to cover that in this piece of feedback. Councillor Flanagan, yeah, deep dive coming up. It's going to be really useful, we think. That is not just the council, that's partners from health, police, schools, the lot. And that is your opportunity to really sort of dig underneath and get some figures out of these people. Councillor Galley, as I understand it, the director or deputy director of Children's Services approached at all for you any of this information. So I've obviously, if that's the case, been fed something that isn't true, but that's what I'm told, Councillor Galley, unless you're telling me differently. Yeah, but have you actually, when you got data, did you then say, this is outrageous, can we speak to you? That's what anybody who was really seriously interested in safeguarding would do. I'm sorry, Councillor Galley, that's what I would have done. County lines, yeah, we know there's a problem. There's a problem in every single town and city that isn't one of the big cities. The big gangs from Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, they are in town, they're everywhere. It's a national problem, but again, our Awaken team is out there, not just in the day, out at night, disrupting this activity. And yeah, happy to meet Councillor Galley. Thank you.
Councillor Mitchell, Carl Mitchell.
To respond to Councillor Flanagan's comments, I've been a critic of scrutiny for some time. I enjoy it and participate in it, and we get good responses from the officers, but I do feel that it's very officer-led. We don't have police, we don't have Ofsted, we don't have the internal audit that attends those meetings, we don't have service users. So to get some of the data that Councillor Galley is talking about, I think would be very hard. And I think that scrutiny needs to change somewhat to be able to address some of those issues. My other quick question, which was what I stood up for really, we're all aware of the astronomical costs of residential care. I've banged on about it for some time. We've got more children now in residential care. We're not hitting our targets. We've 340,000 in our fixed reserves. Where is the money coming from to support our young people? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just going to take the one last question now from Councillor O'Neill, and then we're going to close this this down now, because it's time's ticking and we've still got a few more bits to do. And I know it's important, but you know, unless you want to bring your mattresses next time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just find that outrageous that we're not the ones who've been in power. We're not the ones a few months ago who invited the families of victims of these scandals, and put them up in the gallery, knowing fine well that these people were not going to call for that national inquiry. Yet we're the ones accused of wolf whistling. This is symptomatic of deception and denial of what the Tory parties have done. Nothing. You did nothing on this, nothing of substance on it, and all of a sudden now, you know, how long have you been in opposition? How many years ago could you have asked them for an inquiry into it? And to accuse us of wolf whistling, that's shameless.
Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to confirm, it was Councillor Mitchell the Elder first up on this, was it? Yes. In fact, it was actually me that told Councillor Mitchell we'd had a spike in residential placements about a week ago, so it's interesting to know that the information that I give back is being sent back as a question. No, it's a fair point. It is a fair point. There is currently an overspend on residential. Unfortunately, I've yet to catch up with Steve Thompson after getting back from holiday. It is in my diary early next week just to get an exact figure on that. Councillor O'Neill, similar to what I've told your colleagues over there, I think it would be inappropriate for me to comment on your comments to the party in darker blue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson. Moving on, Cabinet Member for Economy and Built Environment, and this Councillor Smith to present his report.
Sorry. Do you know what? It feels so long before this meeting started, doesn't it, Madam Mayor? You know, I think I've cooled down since I arrived. The temperature's dropped, you know. So, thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't have any notes to say before my report, but listened to a few comments tonight. I just picked up a few things I want to highlight. And one, Councillor Baker sort of jumped my sort of speech, which I wrote down regarding that. And I did ask the inquiry, the question the other day regarding your question, because I think for a number of meetings you come across to the chamber at myself asking about a bus down Midland Road. So yes, we've had some funding from BSIP, 4.2 million. BSIP free funding, which is going to be supporting in services and also infrastructure. And the key thing I really think is important for Blackpool and for the residents of Blackpool, we have good quality buses across the town. What lets ourselves down as the council, as a town, is the first place people go to catch a bus is a bus shelter. So it's a passion of mine to make sure we can replace as many or all of the bus shelters across Blackpool to make that experience, that journey, as best as we can across the town, and also implementing probably the town centre and over a period of time real-time information at the bus shelters as well, so people know when the bus is going to arrive and they can plan their journey better. So also with the BSIP money, we're increasing the frequency and journey times to the hospital, which is very important for the residents of Blackpool. You know, so that's what we're working on doing at the moment. Hopefully we can get that done over the next year with the funding we've got, you know. Second, I was going to say is regarding about green spaces we mentioned earlier on, you know, James Car Park, you know. But can we also highlight the good work we've done with the DWP building across the road and the public realm space, which has been supported through Growth and Prosperity, you know. We've led on that as well. Also, I know Councillor Burgess had mentioned about TCAS funding as well, which is George Street, where we'll be closing George Street off, pedestrianising the area from sort of Bickerstaff through to the Multiversity across the other side, which will be a bigger, greener space and more public realm around that area. But as I know, as I walk to Bickerstaff when I park my car, the number of people utilising that space, sitting on the lawn, having the drink, sitting outside, you know, on their breaks and that. It's a fantastic space. It feels like you're in a different world when you're walking through that at the moment. Thank you very much. I present my report.
Thank you. Any questions on regeneration theme 1, regeneration updates? No. Any general questions? Councillor Sloman.
And I'm going to bore you again, Councillor Smith. It's great. We're going to see more buses going to Blackpool Victoria Hospital. Absolutely fantastic. I ask again, it's great that you've increasing the frequency, but could you please make sure that there is an adequate straight-through bus service for the northern aspects of the town through to the hospital, because we're still suffering financial detriment because we have to break our journeys and it takes twice as long. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
There's going to be more questions on any of the questions asked before we want to go.
Any more general questions? No, just the one then, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it was a bit of a busy night, so there's sort of less questions here. Yes, I will take that with you to BTS. BTS runs a service. We have additional funding for BSEP, but to operate a service like increasing the frequency, as I did on the, is it the 5A, is it, going across Midland? We've got to just make sure the residents use it. Because if we don't use it, then it's not going to be affordable to keep it going. So I'm imagining you'd be an ambassador for your area to motivate people to use that service. And I would take your comments forward to BTS and see what we can do from the northern end part of the town through to the hospital for you. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Moving on, Unfortunately, Councillor Taylor's not here this evening, so Councillor Neil Brooks will be delivering Councillor Taylor's portfolio this evening. Over to you, Councillor Brooks.
Yes, unfortunately, Ivan was taken ill shortly before not seriously ill, but he was feeling queasy, so I was determined that he was better off at home than here. I'll formally move the report. If I can answer questions, I will. If I can't, we'll get a written response to you.
Thanks, Councillor Brooks. Any questions on the themes? Theme 1, Blackpool Researching Together. Theme 2, Household Waste and Recycling Survey Performance. Is that on item 2? Julie Sloman, Councillor.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. It's just a couple of points about the Household Waste and Recycling Survey. Apparently it was circulated to 4,000 households, so we could do with confirmation as to whether that circulation was limited to certain wards or whether a finite number of surveys were circulated across the wards equally. We need confirmation of the 4,000 circulated, what the return rate was, and if the return rates can be attributed to specific geographical ward areas. And can you please advise the themes of dissatisfaction, because without this information, this section of the report is essentially meaningless. Thank you.
Any more questions on theme 2? Councillor Brooks, would you like to reply?
Only to say that for a consultation of 4,000 homes or households is a reasonable size sample, and any consultation firm or consultant or whoever's doing that will have selected randomly, or if they haven't selected randomly, they'll have selected across the town, because it affects every ward in the town. As to the rest of the detail, I don't know. The percentages are there. That's what's going to inform the way forward. If there are any other problems, you need to put it in writing.
Any questions on theme 3, Blackpool Index? No? Any general questions? No? Got away great then, Councillor Brooks. Thanks very much. Moving on. Scrutiny report. We've got Councillor Galley, who's going to do the scrutiny annual report for 24-25.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. I'm going to start with thanking Sharon first, because I often forget to do this, and I'll sit down and in 5 minutes I'm like, oh, hell. So just on behalf of all the scrutiny members, just want to thank Sharon for helping myself coordinate and plan some of the journey that we've been on, as well as the clerks themselves. In terms of the report, it's obviously there for everyone to read. A couple of bits I'm really proud about was obviously we switched performance data into the meetings themselves from Scrutiny Leadership Board. The bit that's taken a long time to sort out was moving all the complaints data into the committees. I could never understand why a small group of people in a Scrutiny Leadership Board meeting should be looking at what the committees themselves should look at. Unfortunately, where it gets complicated is it's taking that away from the complaints team and shifting it across to the actual services themselves. But that should, and I think it started to go through into children's already, I saw last week. And I was really proud to see how the questions were developing, because it's all about evidence. Services will naturally tell us how well they're doing. Now we have some complaint data to sit with that. The big area, though, Madam Mayor, is something you were familiar with in your time as Chair, is the switch now of finance matters as well. And I'm delighted that Councillor Webb has as leading from the front with adults in this area. Having a financial brain will be brilliant, and no doubt Steve Thompson will be delighted, because traditionally, scrutiny at budget time, we started to look at the budget. The budget's already been decided, it was too late. The budget should be determined throughout the year, so scrutiny can now play a part in that. You will all start to see access to that financial data. So, and the final thing, Councillor Cartmel, where are you? We're awaiting a big communications piece of your successful work in climate change, and I think that's the next thing that we have to do. Is lots of work's going on in those committees, lots of members are really asking great questions, good things are happening, but we never tell the public. So that's our mission, is to change that and make that relevant for the people on the street. So with that in mind, Madam Mayor, happy to take some questions.
Yeah, fantastic. It's my pleasure to second this excellent annual report for scrutiny for 2025. I'd echo Councillor Galley's comments about Sharon and all the officers and scrutiny members, committee members who've supported us over the last year. We do scrutiny in Blackpool really well, and it's a valuable and vital tool that ensures transparency in the decision making in the council, and it champions the interests of Blackpool residents. The committees have worked, not just the committee, the Scrutiny Leadership Board have worked tirelessly throughout the year again to examine key issues affecting our community, maintaining rigorous oversight of council services and policies. And again, I just commend the work that the officers and the committee members have done. So more than happy to second.
Thank you. Is there any other councillors wish to speak on this item? Councillor Galley, right to reply? No. Yeah. So I'm going to ask members to note the report and council to vote on the motion. All those in favour? No. Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to the annual audit committee report, Bradley Mitchell to move the motion. And
thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep this short as people are falling asleep around the chamber. So take the report as presented. The main issue I will highlight is the signing off of the previous 3 financial years in line with the national backstop arrangements. This gives assurance to members and the public that our financial position is now formally recorded and transparent. I wish I could take huge credit for this, as my name goes on them, but in reality, huge thanks goes to the officers that engage with the audit committee and those that it simply wouldn't be possible without, Tracy, Lorraine and Katie. Thanks to the councillors on the committee for appropriately scrutinising and taking their role seriously. Paul Galley for your continued advice and support, and I will take forward the high ropes issue. Thank you for throwing that my way, Councillor Farrell. And to our 2 Daves, the independent scrutiny members, they are truly invaluable, and I'm not entirely sure where we'd be without them. Thank you very much.
Mitchell, motion to be seconded by Councillor Humphreys.
I'm very, very, very happy to second it. Thank you.
Any other councillors wishing to speak on this motion? No. Councillor Mitchell, would you like a right to reply?
I'm very, very happy with that.
Okay. So I'm asking members to note the report and council now to take a vote on the motion. All those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? No. Vote carried. Thank you. Does that bring us? Agenda item number 8, parental leave policy. Councillor Brooks to move the motion.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be brief. At the council meeting in May, we were asked to bring back a policy based on the principles recommended by the Independent Remuneration Panel. That policy is in Appendix 8A. Hopefully we can all get behind it. I'm aware that other people may want to speak on this, but I'd just like to congratulate all involved in developing the policy. I think it's a statement of where we are as a council, in that we're moving away from sort of middle-aged and elderly white heterosexual men to becoming a more diverse and representative council, and the more young women and young people who can get involved in this council, the better it'll be for everybody. And that's what for me this policy says. So I'm happy to move the report, and I'm sure Councillor Webb will have something to say.
The motion is going to be seconded by Councillor Webb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm really pleased to be here today as the first councillor to take advantage of our council's parental leave policy for members. This is not just a personal milestone for me, it's a significant moment for all of us as we embrace the idea that being a councillor and a new parent can go hand in hand. Having the opportunity to take this parental leave made a world of difference for me. It allowed me to spend precious time bonding with my little one, while knowing that I would be able to return to my ward activities and have the support from the council to allow for the odd occasion where I might have to bring my son along to certain meetings, just like on Saturday, where childcare has been difficult to come by. I'm grateful for this policy because it shows that we as a council truly value both diversity and family life, as well as our duty to our constituents. This initiative opens the door for many more parents, especially mothers, to step forward and take on leadership roles. It's crucial for us to create a welcoming environment where everyone feels they can be a part of our council, regardless of their family situation. By supporting one another, we can encourage more diverse voices and experiences in local government. I want to thank everyone who helped make and develop this policy. Your efforts will pave the way for future councillors who wish to balance public life and service with parenting. Together, we're setting an example for future leaders that it's possible to manage both responsibilities without having to choose one over the other. We should celebrate this achievement and continue to foster a supportive, inclusive environment in our council, one where every parent feels empowered to lead and make a difference in our community. I'm happy to second this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Webb. Any other councillors wish to talk on this motion? No. Councillor Brooks. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. Echo the sentiments entirely, Councillor Webb, and it's nice to have you back. However, I don't feel able to support the parental leave policy in its entirety, specifically Section 5, the Special Responsibility Allowance. I do not believe it is appropriate for members to continue to receive a Special Responsibility Allowance in full whilst on maternity, paternity or adoption leave. My fundamental point is that members, whilst on leave, may inevitably become embroiled in ward issues or continue to take an interest from afar, but during this very precious time, nothing should necessitate or give rise for any involvement with special responsibilities, and for that reason, I think that should not be payable. This is an allowance as opposed to a right enshrined within employment legislation. I accept there is provision for the remuneration panel and monitoring officer to have determinacy as to whether or not a replacement member receives the allowance on a pro rata basis and having regard as to whether or not they already enjoy another special responsibilities allowance. And I support the notion of a potential cost saving to be made there. But paying this on top of the substantive allowance remaining payable to the person on leave is not palatable, and suspending the special responsibilities allowance for the person on leave would demonstrate greater financial prudence at a time when members' allowances are under such public scrutiny. Thank you.
Councillor Brooks. Any other speakers? Councillor Brooks, right to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I must admit that I'm really disappointed because I was hoping that this would go through with a unanimous vote because it really is a statement of where we are as a council and as a society. Are we really saying that if somebody falls pregnant and has to leave their duties, we're not going to pay and fulfil our responsibilities as a council? I can't believe that. It wouldn't happen in the workplace. Why should it happen here? We've banged on time after time about being representative. We've banged on time after time about people being, not from wealthy backgrounds, people having allowances paid which allows people to take part in public life. And yet we're saying if somebody falls pregnant and takes absence to look after their child, we're not going to fulfil that responsibility as a council. I'm really disappointed. I reject it out of hand. And it might not be an employment law. For me, it's a moral issue. It's about being representatives of society. So I'd hope you can change your minds and support this. I don't know where Councillor O'Neill is, whether it's a reform policy. I had to have a go because there's not many women on the county council, so perhaps that's indicative of their position on this. I hope you can support what we're saying, but if not, we'll still vote in favour of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Sorry. Oh yeah. So we're going to take a vote now on the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? No. Oh, you can't now. It's already been taken. It should have been said at the beginning.
Before the vote starts, 5 members need to record. The record will show that Mr. O'Neill is missing. That's fine.
Okay. So that's due now.
You just need to announce it.
Oh, so that the motion is carried. So thank you for that. Is there? Oh, the valuation, yeah, number 9. Moving on now, the last item of the evening, notice of motion, impact evaluation office agency on Blackpool Holiday Flats. Councillor Walsh to move the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the beginning of the meeting, I declared an interest, a personal interest, just to be transparent. My main employment is in the hospitality sector, of which short-term holiday lets is part of that. I won't read the motion at full, as I'm sure elected members have both read and, more importantly, discussed its merits. However, given the importance of the motion, I would like to take this opportunity to expand on just a few points that's been proposed this evening. Under the previous government, a change in policy relating to how short-term holiday lets was assessed was rolled out in 2023. And as with all policy changes, the true extent of the changes didn't become apparent until some 18 months later. Indeed, there's some 9,000 businesses are now dealing with the unintended consequences of short-term holiday lets and how they're assessed across England and Wales. Bringing this closer to Blackpool, my current understanding, and I'm sure Councillor Smith will change the data if it's needed, in Blackpool is that we have 185 short-term holiday lets, and of that number, 65 are currently appealing against the reclassification from commercial to residential status. The key drivers of this reclassification are based on 2 questions. Are the short-term holiday lets available for 140 nights? And has each of the short-term holiday lets been let commercially for 70 nights within a 12-month period? Now, within isolation, these 2 questions may appear to address short-term holiday lets for standalone properties such as holiday cottages, residential houses. But what they fail to do is recognise the historic and unique Victorian properties that many coastal resorts, such as Blackpool, has to offer. The motion sets out the following. We wish the Labour Group to write to the Secretary of State for Housing, Angela Rayner, and these are the following motions. Urgently review the new occupancy requirements for short-term holiday lets for seasonal coastal resorts, such as Blackpool. Reduce the minimum number of days a property must be let from 70 to 50. It is my understanding that the occupancy level of 70 days was based on short-term holiday lets in London, which I think we can all agree has a tourism economy of 365 days a year. This far exceeds our home. Blackpool is roughly about 7 months and very much event-driven. Brighton is 5 months seasons and Rhyl has 5 months. Also 5 months. I would also suggest that the occupancy level should be calculated and subsequently set by the actual local authority itself and not the VOA. 3. They introduce exceptions and mitigating circumstances as why a commercial business has not met or achieved the occupancy targets as set out by the VOA. Here in Blackpool, I can give you 3 live examples of why this matters. A business owner has developed leukemia, and a major symptom of this disease is chronic fatigue. Are we really expecting someone who is dealing with cancer to meet the 70-day occupancy rule for every apartment? Then we have a business owner who faces thousands of pounds in council tax due to failing to hit occupancy targets due to the loss of her partner. Bereavement should also be taken into consideration. Then we have a business owner who's 75 years of age, doesn't have a public or private pension, and at a time when they should be have the option to open up and close their rooms as they see fit, they are now penalised for doing so. Number 4, exempt properties containing 5 or more holiday lets. The reason for this is due to the majority of short-term holiday lets being classed as, and I quote, substandard accommodation which is not suitable for permanent occupation. That is a Blackpool Authority quote. Indeed, many Victoria buildings still consist of one-bedroom studio/bedsit, which fail to meet the National Housing Technical Standards nor the Council's very own standards in the New Homes for Old Places Supplementary Planning document. So, with the VOA changing the classification of a commercial business to one that is liable for council tax, i.e. residential, the Council's own policies may not allow for change of use. Business owners across the resort are being asked to pay thousands of pounds in council tax for each individual flat, whilst there are no guarantees that a material change of use can take place. They're stuck between no man's land. And therefore, that's why I propose that the motion be sent to Angela Rain to look at the policy immediately, or as soon as possible. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. And the motion be seconded by Councillor Julie Sloman.
I'm happy to second the motion proposed by Councillor Walsh and thank him for bringing this to Council's attention. One of the primary intentions of the re-evaluation was to free up homes for families, prevent the breakdown in communities where swathes of accommodation remained empty for significant parts of the year, and to bring back into use accommodation that is in disrepair, all of which were joint and several factors blighting our communities. It was not intended for towns like Blackpool, but we suffer because of its one-size-fits-all approach. It could prove to have the potential to be a wrecking ball, forcing the very situation that it's intended to ameliorate. We enjoy an extended seasonal period because of our famous illuminations, the increasingly popular Christmas by the Sea, and we are seeing a return at last to becoming a sought-after conference venue. Yet many accommodations will still struggle and in some cases not achieve the rigid thresholds of 140 night availability and 70 night occupancy. This equates to full occupancy for 10 weeks. Imagine then being one of the smaller coastal towns with a limited season. So surely, as the country's premier resort, a town again I've mentioned again tonight, a town whose proud motto is progress, this motion provides us as a council an opportunity to lead the way by challenging the formula used to calculate liability. Taking this motion to the heart of government would provide a catalyst for wider impact for the good, not only for ourselves, but for the smaller coastal communities, which do not have the extended season we enjoy in Blackpool and will most likely suffer on a grander scale. But I feel we also need to recognise and understand that if these lets are classified as permanent residencies, there can be even more further draconian unintended consequences if they are not trading or trading at the levels required for any of the reasons Councillor Walsh has alluded to. They can become liable for the second home's premium, effectively doubling the liability for each unit, placing an unrealistic and certainly unsustainable financial liability on the business with the potential to close the business down. If a business is not financially viable, it'll cease trading and nobody will want to buy a business that's unviable. So we will see further empty properties, but it doesn't end there. Suppliers will suffer financially and staff employed in these businesses may find themselves out of work and possibly unable to meet their own council tax liability. So reduced income potentially for the council all round. Many of the holiday lets are going through the appeals process against the VOA classification. This in itself is an extremely protracted and stressful process, taking currently up to 8 months. And as Councillor Walsh has already stated, could have profound effects on the mental and emotional well-being of our proprietors. I anticipate, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the budget that this council put forward in February of this year factored in the new levy and potentially that premium. With many businesses going through the appeals of the VOA ruling, if their appeals are successful, this could result in a huge reduction in financial yield, having dire implications for that budget. So on the back of the motion, can we seek an assurance that any resistance to taking this motion to government is not based on fear of loss of that financial yield and balancing our own books? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sloman. Any other councillors wishing to comment on this motion? Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm disappointed, actually, that we're going to be asking Council to oppose this motion. And we're going to be asking to oppose the motion because we've not had sufficient time to look at the consequences were it to be successful. And we tried unsuccessfully to do this. I even knocked on Councillor Galley's opposition door today to try and get this sorted out. There are a number of things we've got a problem with. Reducing the number of days from 70 to 50. Unfortunately, we hold very little information on these properties as the determination is made by the Valuation Agency Office and not the council. So that means locally we don't even know how many days the properties will let or are available for, meaning we can't say the effect or the impact of the change in policy. If introduced, however, we know that this reduced occupancy threshold for business rate payers to retain their business rate status from 19% of the year to 14% of the year, or to put it differently, meaning the unit could sit empty for 86% of the year and continue to be valid as a business and receive government support, including small business rate relief and retail, hospitality and leisure relief. Those impacts need to be measured. Wales, for example, requires the property to be available for 252 days and let for 182 days as a comparison. There's always going to be mitigating circumstances for individuals, but there is a statutory exception which stops us charging the second home premium where planning conditions dictate the property can only be used as a holiday accommodation. But that doesn't remove the ordinary charge for each flat. There's too much here that we don't know about. So what we're going to say, we are going to vote against it. We want to go through the scrutiny process because we think it should be looked at. And Councillor Solomon's right. We are the leading, not one of them, we are the leading resort in the country. So it's important we get this right if we are going to be a standard bearer going to government asking them to change this. So we want to go through scrutiny and sort this out properly. So we'll be voting against it, but on those terms, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Butts. Councillor Walsh, would you like to reply?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Kind of expected, really. Disappointing. It doesn't help the 185 short-term holiday lets that currently exist in Blackpool. The season is a tough season. The position and the location of where your premises matters. So some people on the periphery of the town will struggle, whereas other people in the town centre will probably do okay because it's event-driven, as I said, for the Winter Gardens, feeding the hospitality sector. So it is disappointing. And what I will say, and I would like it documented to a certain degree, is the 65 people that are going through the appeals process, a lot of other people are on the periphery of hitting those 70 days. Come this time next year, when that assessment is made, there'll be another 40 people taken out of the holiday sector. So what you will find is, because of your motion, because you refuse to send it forward and get it looked at properly, you're probably going to drive short-term holiday lets. Okay, I do believe it'll be the case, because there was no council tax on these properties anyway. So you've not taken any housing stock out because you can't convert them into living accommodation under the Blackpool Council's own policy. So it's unfortunate, predictable. I'll be stood here in 12 months' time just saying exactly the same thing, and there'll be more businesses going under. Thank you.
Unfortunately, the questions you should have stood up before, Mark, before Councillor Walsh's right to reply. No, you can't. I'm sorry. No, you can't. We're going to go to the vote now. I did ask any other councillors if they wanted to speak on this motion, and there was only Councillor Brooks stood up, so I'm sorry, we have to vote now. No, that's okay. So, all those in favour of the motion?
Is it a motion or the amendment?
There isn't an amendment, you see, so all those in favour of the motion? All those against? Motion is lost, sorry. And just to say thanks to everybody for your patience and everything tonight, and this concludes the business of this meeting. I'm taking all this home with me because by September